that's
It
stupid.
doesn't work, Rooster.
Yeah. All right, we're not going to play that game. All right.
Um,
Sorry, continue on.
So
yeah.
I
So
don't think
Donald Trump.
AM
Hang on,
I'm
real
sorry.
quick, Rob. Donald Trump specifically asked Twitter to take down the post of Chrissy Teigen calling him a pussy ass bitch, which is hilarious because he is a pussy ass bitch.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I have a problem with that. I actually also have a problem with Trump sort of paying lip service to his administration, saying that Terry Moran should be suspended or fired. I don't particularly like that, but the magnitude of those two people facing some sort of consequence that will basically led to nothing versus millions of people being banned off social media from certain subjects seems to be completely different. And so back, I don't disagree with what AM was saying, but the problem, AM, is this. Like, what'll happen is you'll say, but this did happen, and Ryan will say, prove it, and then you'll spend 3 hours going through a piece of evidence. I'm not saying that that's not an appropriate discussion to have, but in the long form panel, I'll just ask for the sake of argument, Ryan, if that did happen, right, without us proving it, just hypothetically, if it happened, if people in the Biden administration pressured social media to censor posts because they contained what they thought was disinformation about the 2020 election, do you think that that's authoritarian and something that we should criticize?
Wait, hang on. Somebody clarify this for me because I might be confused. What time span does the Twitter files reference?
I don't know. It references slight at the beginning of the Trump administration, or the end of the Trump administration with the pandemic, but then goes largely into the Biden administration.
And this is where I'm thinking, right? So when you're talking about like the suppressing like the Hunter Biden laptop, from what I'm looking at, that looks like October 2020.
Correct.
Who was the administration in charge of the U.S. government in October of 2020?
Irrelevant.
It was Trump, right?
Irrelevant. It's irrelevant to this point, right? It's irrelevant to the
But
fact
you're
that
arguing the U.S. government was.
Does Donald Trump? So you would argue that every single governmental employee that was there under Joe Biden was operating at the behest of Joe Biden, and he's responsible for all their actions?
I mean, it's what I hear argued all the time.
Well, I think you're arguing with morons then. Like, it's clear.
It might be possible. Yeah, that's true.
Right. Get a better caliber of opponent. It's clear that there were people within these agencies that were not Trump supporters. For example, is it your real argument that you think 51 former intel agents and people within that still had security clearances that were there when Donald Trump was in office were censoring the Hunter Biden laptop story because they were helping Trump?
Couldn't it just be because they thought it was misinformation?
It could be theoretically, but why don't they step in? Why is it always when they step
I
in
know
about
most of
misinformation, it
Biden's
goes one
requests about the
direction?
laptop had to do with the explicit images of his son in there.
But that wasn't what
other stuff.
But that wasn't what was going on. So, for example, there was this meeting that occurred in the Aspen Institute, and I forget the name of the agency through the government that was putting on this hearing, but it had a bunch of these social media places, and it was talking about Russian disinformation to affect the 2020 election. And it specifically said that, hypothetically, what if, this is going to blow your mind, what if there were accusations made that someone in the Biden family worked for corrupt groups in places like Ukraine? Well, this would be a good example of Russian disinformation to censor the 2020 election. So the people at Twitter admitted, and I think Zuckerberg's admitted this as well, though I could be wrong, that they were primed for this exact story, not because it had Hunter Biden pictures of him nude, but because the allegations made forth were something that the intel agencies knew. They knew about this laptop. They knew the information and it was accurate. And so they were priming media to not just censor. The censorship's not even really the problem. It was the fact that it was censored for a moment, and then the American people were like, wow, that's unprecedented that this was censored, that these intel officials came out and said this is garbage, so no one believed the story. That's the problem. No, there's tons of... Well, it's an interest. First, polling suggested that 1/3 of Democrats said that they may have changed their vote if they understood that the Hunter Biden laptop story was true. Second, it's not just that Hunter Biden was making money from these corrupt foreign institutions. It's that it was happening while his dad was the point person for weeding out corruption in those very same areas. For example, we saw... Okay, you can think that. You can think that.
Well, I mean, even if you start with
You're in.
If you s- even if
disagree.
you s- if even if you start with something so small and minuscule and what seems very unimportant, usually that means it can get bigger and bigger and bigger to other things, right? So, just the same as if somebody lies to you about something really, it was really small and tiny and minuscule, didn't matter. Then what else are they willing to do with the bigger stuff, right? So I think the whole Hunter laptop thing, like, because it just shows that if they're willing to cover that up just for one thing, then what else are they willing to do?
Well,
So
and
there's-
that was
there-
part
there's-
as the FBI was doing it on behalf
Right.
of the campaign for Biden, and they were in cahoots with both big tech and the FBI to basically spread out false narratives about it, and
Okay, there we go.
willfully choosing not to let it get out.
Is it
Right, so the-
truly? Is it? Sorry, Rob, you can go. I know you've been trying.
There's several arguments to make about this.
I'm gonna go to
lost
the
my
bathroom
train
real
of
quick.
thought a
Seems
little.
like you guys have got this one down, so I'll be back.
Okay, so there you go.
Lost my train of thought a little there, but to do it in reverse order, whoever that was just talking there, the real story here is it doesn't matter if it would have changed one vote. What matters is that our government agencies were putting their thumb on the scale of the election in order to attempt to help one party win. That's the problem. Post hoc justifying by saying, well, we don't think it would have changed votes anywhere is irrelevant to the whole conversation. However, if we delve deep into this, no, it's not just a matter of, it was as simple as he made money at Gazprom, but haven't people in Trump's family made money as well? The problem was the exact nature of this political attack. One, when you look at what this was saying, it was saying that Hunter Biden did things like work for, and I'm quoting now, the spy chief of China, which most people in this country would think were the biggest foreign adversaries that we had. Secondly, it showed that the attacks on Trump, other than the pandemic, that were the most successful and the most used by Democrats, were his connection to a hostile foreign power. So if it turned out that actually Joe Biden himself said Zlochevsky, the guy that was running Burisma that his son was working for, was working as a hostile Russian oligarch, that would seem to take away one of their biggest offensive weapons against Trump and prove him to be a hypocrite and a liar. And the last thing was, I'm open to hearing any discussions of corruption of the Trump family. Can you show me him, or for that matter, any president in the history of this country that has issued a quid pro quo to the tune of any amount of serious taxpayer dollars to force the firing of a prosecutor? Can anyone show me in the history of the United States that ever occurring?
And not just a prosecutor in a foreign country.
Right. Well, not just a prosecutor in a foreign country, but leave them answer first, and then we'll get.
Hang on.
Right.
Wait. I remember Donald Trump making a very good phone call in 2019, right? I remember him making a very, so like if in my opinion, that is a certain level of pressure when you literally have a president calling the Ukrainians like very much
Hang on,
implying to do
wasn't
shit.
the difference was one was official State Department policy and one was a president looking to get dirt on his political opponents. Wasn't that the difference of those two
Okay,
situations?
so-
Both are
Show
coming
me
from
the
the
officials.
executive branch.
Show me the official State Department policy before Joe Biden issued that quid pro quo. Go ahead.
What do you mean?
A claim was just made that it was okay for Joe
Okay,
Biden
so
to
if
issue
it's
a quid-
directly
Let me finish,
benefiting
please,
Donald
please,
Trump, if
please,
he's
let
trying
me
to find
finish.
dirt on
Please,
his
let me
political
finish.
opponents, what the hell would that
Amos,
be?
I'm not sure
When you
why you
ask
guys
a
keep
question,
doing
would you
this. Pull out the evidence out of your ass right now,
Hold
saying
on.
when we're
Yeah,
bringing
like
up a
I
subject
don't
out of
have the
blue, like,
article
I
on
love
me.
how you
I'm
guys
sorry.
are ignoring
I should have
the
had the
whole point
article
of what
on me.
Rob
That's
is
my bad.
bringing up.
I love how you guys are all ignoring me when I try to interrupt.
Yeah,
and
we
tell you
should
to be
apologize for that.
quiet.
Shame.
You should.
Yeah, true.
Shame on you. Okay, go ahead, Rob.
Okay, there's two people I'm talking to that are making two different arguments. One person is making the argument, but what about Trump? The other person's making the argument, there's something that was uniquely different here because it was actually official State Department policy when it came to Biden's quid pro quo, but not with Trump's alleged quid pro quo.
When it's
And so
coming
I
from the
heard
president
this-
himself, how
and
is
then-
that
and then-
not?
And then what we have is Avius continues to interrupt me as I'm trying to answer
Okay,
the
my
person
bad.
that wasn't
I'll-
him.
I'll stop.
Right?
Okay, I'll
that's what's
stop.
going
Yeah,
on.
go ahead, my
right? So
bad.
I'll
I'll
happily
own that.
answer what you're talking about as well. Right? What I'm saying is, Effigy, of course, no one expects you to have this evidence at a moment's beck and call. I totally understand that. The problem for you, though, Effigy, is I've debated people over and over and over about this, and that evidence doesn't exist. There is no evidence that says it was official State Department policy for Joe Biden to issue a quid pro quo. In fact, there's not even compelling evidence prior to November, I believe, of that year that there was anyone at the State Department or anywhere else that was suggesting that Victor Shokin, the prosecutor that was looking in to Joe Biden's son's company, should be fired. Quite to the contrary, we see contemporaneous evidence that suggests that when it came to our European allies, they were saying that they thought anti-corruption efforts in places like Ukraine were ramping up and that they were happy and okay with sending money there. But we actually have audio or video evidence of one of the staffers that was on Air Force Two with Biden as he went over for his famous quid pro quo discussion, saying it was Biden himself that came up with the idea of the quid pro quo. So even now,
Okay,
post
so,
talk,
wait,
Well, but that's the point, though, right? Wasn't
Can
the
I-
official policy of the United States of trying to get the people they thought in the Ukrainian government who were basically bad actors that were backed by Russia out of the way? Wasn't that the whole point? I could
no,
be wrong, but
no,
wasn't
the
that
whole point was that.
Wait, sorry. Can I?
No, 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 no.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no,
Let's
no,
let
no, no,
Coder
no,
speak,
no, no.
okay?
The panel production.
Go ahead, Rob.
I haven't researched this in
Yeah.
like 2 years. I'm out of my depth. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I don't know that much about it, but what I'm just wondering, Rob, do you think that are you saying that Joe Biden did an illegal quid pro quo? Like he went through illegal channels to do this
it's interesting. You make this illegal. I'll say it
Yeah.
depends. I say that
You
it
make this
warranted.
point a lot
let
for
me
good
finish.
reason.
I would say that it warranted a significant FBI investigation, right? The channel, as what you're trying to say is, did he properly register as a foreign lobbyist or something like that? It's irrelevant to the question. Let's ask the question. I'll ask it to everyone in the
I
panel.
think it is relevant. Wait. The reason it is relevant to what I'm asking because I'm asking if Biden did something that was criminal.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, let me ask the
Which-
question
and what
real
is it?
quick to everyone in the panel, right?
Well, when I
If
get
an-
the chance, I will
if
tell you.
an executive agent, right, whether it be president, vice president, someone in the cabinet, etc., from the executive branch, takes a huge sum of your tax dollars to force the firing of a prosecutor who's looking into one of their family members, do you think that reeks of corruption and should be investigated?
Should absolutely be
does happen.
investigated. Yeah.
It should be investigated. Yeah, I'll give you that.
So then why did the FBI not immediately start investigating it? Why was it
I
that
don't know
this
why.
was basically
Yeah, why
covered up?
was that?
And why did the FBI then go the step further and seem to prime social media companies that stories that would show that going
It's
into
because
the
it's
2020
rigged.
election would be Russian disinformation?
It's fucking
I mean,
rigged.
as far as covering up the Twitter files, I feel like it's a completely understandable explanation to say, like, yeah, the story of Hunter Biden dropping his laptop off to this blind.
Yeah, it
laptop
sounds like
appeal
bullshit,
person,
okay?
person
It just
and
sounds like
legally
bullshit.
picking it up and not sharing it to anybody and making sure that nobody can corroborate the evidence. That doesn't feel super believable to me. Now, the
But it
fact that it
was.
did turn out, the fact that it did turn out real, that is a problem, and I think it's unfortunate that the story was censored. But to be fair, it also kind of gives people reason to be like, hey, this story sounds kind of fishy. Like, I can understand why people would say, hey, this reeks of all of the tellings of
Okay,
misinformation,
look-
even if it wasn't.
Okay, let me ask you a question real quick.
Hang on. Okay,
I'm
we're
sorry.
we're so off the rails. We are so off the rails. Like,
Well,
I think.
Oh, if we're gonna switch the
Poseidon-
topic, can we let Rob ask the question?
Just real quick, I'll be quick. I promise,
Yeah, okay,
Coder.
go ahead.
I promise.
Before we switch.
Yeah,
Did you
Yeah,
think
yeah.
did you think it sounded believable that a germaphobe like Donald Trump rented a hotel that Obama once stayed in to get pissed on in a bed?
No, I don't think that's not.
Stranger things have happened.
And yet,
I'd believe
all the
it.
media
Wait,
reported
Look, crazy
on that.
things happen when you're rich.
Let me finish.
He peed on
Let me
someone.
Let me finish. And yet, all the media reported on that uncritically, and no one at the FBI said this reeks of Russian disinformation. In fact, the FBI knew at
No,
that
they
point
just said
that
it
that
was
was
part of the-
disinformation that was paid for by Hillary's camp, and yet they didn't intervene. I wonder
It was
why.
originally paid for by the Republicans. That's how
No, it
Hillary
wasn't.
got it.
Prove it.
Yes,
You're
it
a
was.
liar. You're a liar.
Because it came from that former MI6 guy, and they got it for
You're
during
lying.
the early campaign.
You mean the
You're
guy
lying.
that the guy that was paid to
Yeah,
give
yeah.
his dossier to the Clintons and the
I
Democrats?
mean, there was
Stop
substantial
interrupting.
reporting
Stop.
at the time that the McCain camp was responsible.
And-
That doesn't mean it was necessarily corroborated. I'm not going to say it was
Austin,
corroborated.
We are
Yeah,
way
you're
way
wrong.
off course.
The Hunter Biden story wasn't
we
censored,
are-
by the way.
Before there was a
Of
Hillary steal
course,
dossier.
if you are
I don't know if you guys
watching,
remember or
Damn,
not.
I've already been voted
It
off.
if
happened,
you
though.
are
You can look it up.
watching over on Rob's side,
I'm off for 10
please
minutes,
shield your
so
eyes and
we'll
hope
just sit
your
back and we'll
lady will
watch for a
like
little bit.
this.
This message is sponsored in part by
Shout out to Kissy Cat, sending some love over
See,
to
I fucked
K2
up.
because she said he is literally begging.
Yeah, I
for
was
the
dropped.
fireman.
I was dropped for $10
And
because I made the
Peppery
mistake of
comes with a
saying
big
I
five,
was
says,
out of my
"Thanks, Sarah."
depth. All right,
Robert-
I'm not. It's not that I was
Rob
out of my
doesn't
depth.
think anyone else
It's just
should be able
more
to
of the
talk, so
fact
I'll
of
check
if he's
back
going to start
later
bringing
if
up
I'm still
specific
awake.
names about
Hashtag
motherfuckers that were
I
involved with
didn't
like fucking
understand that one.
Burisma and Gazprom.
Complaining
Yeah,
that
I'm not
Rob
going to
is
be able to counter him on that because I
talking,
haven't
then
read the
booing, I
Burisma
don't
like
know.
Gazprom
Does she
shit
like you or
since
does she
like.
hate you?
Look, everybody
Since like I was
knows
arguing all the Ukraine shit, probably
Well,
like
and let me
2023. Go back and like
set,
watch
like, a
Kanklemore.
little
See me on
preface
fucking
here. I
Kanklemore's
know
channel.
Rob
I would probably know
talks
more about the
a
fucking Burisma
lot.
shit. But like right now,
Fully aware of
I need
that,
to.
but
I need to
he's
dive back
also
in and refresh
incredibly
myself on Twitter files
respectful when
Burisma
he hands
information.
the
All right,
mic back
I'm gonna
over,
just
and he
own
will
that
be
right
quiet
now. However,
until
I
you
shouldn't
are
have said
done.
that. The moment I
And
said that,
that's why
yeah, I was getting
allow him
fucking
to
dropped.
do
I
the
fucked
way
up,
he
bro.
does,
I
because
fucked
when
up.
I say stop, he stops, and he's very respectful, and that gets you a long way here. If you continue to interrupt people,
Yeah,
and
see,
do all
that's
that
the thing.
stuff,
He has the
I'm
ability
probably
to
not gonna
like
be
actually
as
mention the
nice.
specific names of like
Calvin
Burisma
Collage with a
motherfuckers,
big
which
10 says,
yeah, no,
"Please,
I
Liz,
cannot
do
do
not
that.
allow Rob to
That is
railroad
out
you
of
in
my
half
real
truths."
house.
He is not being honest that Trump was actively using his DOJ and personal lawyer, Rudy, to go after the Biden family, private citizens. Shots fired, Rob. What say you?
There's no evidence. that he
However,
was using the DOJ.
fuck
There
those
is
guys
evidence
because
that
I
Rudy
was the only
Giuliani was
motherfucker
looking
bringing up the
into
fact that
situation in
Trump's
Ukraine.
family
Here's what
literally
happened.
has
Trump got
$1 million
impeached for
fucking real
inquiring
estate
as to
deals.
Biden's quid pro
God damn
quo,
it!
which
If you want to
everyone
talk about
here
prick
admitted,
quo
or at least
quo
tacitly
prick.
was silent when
You know
if
what?
we
I'm gonna
had
make that.
someone
That's
in
gonna
the
be a
Trump
video.
administration
I'm
or
gonna
any
talk
other
about the
administration
Trump
that
family's
used $1
prick
billion
quo,
of our tax
quick
dollars to
prick,
force the firing
fucking
of a
that
prosecutor
word,
that was
okay?
looking at their son's
Quick
Official
pro quo.
policy.
Yeah, quick pro quo. I'm gonna talk about the
It's
Trump's
already been
family.
brought
Quick,
up. It was under
quick
official
quo.
policy. Why are we going back over
I can't
this?
talk.
Also, the Hunter
Guys, I
Biden
can't
story
fucking
wasn't,
talk. Okay, this is
censored. It
awkward.
was a specific
Quick
article.
pro
Go
quo.
back
There
and
we
look.
go.
It
I
was
actually
talked
said
about
it.
constantly. It was a specific
Never
article with
whatever.
links to dick pics. That was revenge porn. That was against.
But I should be back
TOS.
in
Very girthy.
by 30 minutes in the stream. I
requested-
should be back on.
Twitter requested take out the links to the revenge porn, and we'll put the article back up. They refused, but the story itself was not censored. It is such a
Isn't
lie.
there literally an email exchange between the
I'll go
Biden
rest of you guys
administration
handle it for
and
me.
Twitter saying you have to remove posts about the Hunter Biden laptop? I'm pretty sure. I
No,
watched
the
all of
article,
that
not posts
testimony.
about the story. The article specifically.
That link to
Yeah,
the
so there
New
were
York
people
Post
posting about the
article
story.
That was the
People posting about
original
the story were
article
not
about
banned.
the
or-
laptop.
you
Yeah,
can
do I
post
have
about the
that
story.
right?
You can talk about the
You
story.
you can
You're allowed to
you
talk
can look
about
up the archives on Twitter. It was constantly being talked about all day, every day.
Everyone
It was
being talked
it was the
about.
New
Everyone's talking
York
about how
Post
huge
article.
Hunter Biden's cock
Right?
was. Everyone said it.
Once
Can I-
again,
So, I mean, if
it
we
took
talk
place
about-
in
if we talk about a
2020.
Damn.
softball game-
Seems like I can't have the fucking the webcam be taken
did
by
anything.
Chrome and
Yes,
this at the
in
same
house.
time.
Administration.
Except
So
for
we're
the
gonna do
Biden
without the
administration,
webcam
it
for now,
was
unless
allies of
unless I'm
Hunter
on there. You don't get
Yeah.
webcam. I hate
Go
to tell
Okay, I
you.
apologize for
Fucking running
interrupting.
like the
Sorry.
wind now.
Huh?
And of
And
course,
here's the thing. I want Ryan to answer my question. I was trying to, because I wanted to
What's
answer
your
the question. He said he was talking about whether Trump or whether Biden did something illegal
I
when
think we
it
got
came.
chats
And,
first.
and here's what he did, Ryan. And I know you guys, for some reason, have like a memory hole where this clip went out, but he was on video in front of people, and he bragged about the fact that he told the prosecutor in Ukraine that he was going to withhold
You know what?
United States aid.
I'm gonna take a dub in this
or
one. I've made
unless he
Sarah
was gonna
$10
stop
already.
if they
All right,
fired the prosecutor
we've done this
investigating
already. We've already
reasonable.
capitalized
And if Trump
on
was- if it was reversed and it
$10.
was Trump,
Now
all
the
of these
question is, what the
liberals would
fuck
be
should we
losing
do
their
while we
effing
wait?
You do
minds.
not understand the
Should
difference.
we?
You don't
What's the
understand
difference?
between official
'Cause I
policy
don't know.
and a quid
Chat,
pro quo that
Which
benefited
game
Trump
should
personally.
we know
So-
life
so- no,
inside
no,
of?
no,
Should we
but
know
what
life
I'm
inside of
saying-
Grand
Yes,
Theft
that's the
Auto?
difference.
Should
No, no,
we
you guys-
Why
build a
would you keep going
Minecraft
on
server,
circles in this?
or
Come
should
on.
we
No,
just do
because
like
you guys
fucking
are
delves in
ignoring
World of
the bigger
Warcraft?
points.
Like, are we
No,
a
you're ignoring
World
official
of Warcraft
policy.
guy, a
Personal
Minecraft
gain.
guy, or a
So it's
GTA
official
guy?
policy of the United
Because frankly, I love all
Yes.
three. All right, but I'm not sure which one we're going
Naomi
with.
with the big 5 to say, "My love, I love you too, Naomi." Okay,
Yeah,
Ryan,
Naomi's
did you
cool.
want to interrupt in there somewhere?
I do want to interrupt. I want to bring it back because I think Poseidon in chat made a great point that we've let the topic go way off the rails. And like what we were talking about before we started talking about fucking Joe Biden is we were and Hunter Biden's giant dick is that what we were talking about was the
beautiful
current
dick,
administration
giant
sending
beautiful
soldiers
dick, by
on
the way.
American
All right,
urban
while he's
soil,
doing
like, that's not a big deal.
very
I-
questionable
I-
illegal
just
substances.
promise.
All right,
5
but
seconds, I'll
however,
just
he has a
finish
nice
with this.
dick, so like,
you guys keep asserting
doesn't
it was official
matter.
policy. You're wrong. By the way, it was official State
Not
Department
wrong.
policy. It was official State Department policy for Donald Trump to issue his quid pro quo.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it
And
was.
this is the
See?
one-
No,
That's
it
about the same amount of proof. You
No, it
fucking
wasn't.
liar. That's
You're
what
the
you
one
do.
lying.
That's
I'll
how you
investigate
gaslight
this.
the
I'll
audience.
follow
It
up
was
with you,
official
Rob.
State
Yeah, I'll
Department. It was
investigate this.
official
I
State
will.
Rob,
I'll
did
look
you?
into
Yeah, go
did
lose
you
to
move
Pisco
your-
again here.
Rob, did you move
Go
your
lose
mic
to
away from
Pisco.
you? You're coming in
That's
quieter all
awful.
of a sudden.
Oh, let me check and see what happens.
It's hard to
I
lose
just
to
wanna be able to
Pisco,
make this
okay?
point
Because Pisco is
unless
very.
you guys are-
I
guess
like
you
Pisco,
completely
but he's very
memory hole the fact-
lib
because it
pilled.
sounds
All
like
right,
you're
he's very
saying that
blue
it's
pilled.
official state
Very,
policy
very blue
for an
pilled.
acting vice president who is in charge of our state policy with the foreign nation to withhold or threaten to withhold aid to another country if they don't fire a prosecutor. How is that official state policy?
What do you mean? We
That's
meddle
right,
in
that's
foreign
right,
countries all the
that's right.
time. Like, what
That's-
do you
Calm
mean?
down. Let him answer. Let him answer.
So
It
my point. That's my point here is that unless you can say that that's what is the case. Now, there are cases where there were
Trump
obviously
just
more-
undid
I
all
mean-
aid for no reason. Why do you have a problem for undoing aid for a reason?
No. You are missing the point. Like always, I'm asking you, is it illegal?
I mean,
Is it
are you-
illegal or official state policy of the United States for a sitting vice president to threaten enough to withhold aid
Okay,
to another
yeah.
country?
I
and
used
he-
to really
he-
like
he,
Pisco. I'm not
bragged
even gonna
about it,
lie.
he
Like I
flipped
used to be
about
a
it,
very huge Pisco
when
enjoyer,
he was
but
when he was asked about it.
To
the
do so by
problem
the
is
president.
Pisco has
Well,
the
no,
same
no,
issues
no,
that
he was in charge. He was in charge
fucking.
of policy.
no, you're
The hell
you're
is his
mixing up
name?
illegal with like ethical.
See if
You
I can pull
say
him
it's
up on
unethical
Twitter.
That we meddle
Not
in
Twitter, on
foreign
YouTube.
country
So you
business.
think it's
period?
illegal for a vice
What the
president
fuck
to
is
be
this
with-
lib fuck's name?
Yes, I
Hey,
think it's
or-
legal.
or-
Yes.
or-
He's the
Fair
biggest
enough.
lib
Why?
fuck to ever lib fuck.
Could
Okay, I need
where the
to.
constitutional
Let me
pull him
authority
up.
for that is?
I'm taking the steering wheel.
Oh, what the
USA
fuck
Today,
is
this
his
the headline.
name?
Maybe they're lying. Don't it's possible, I guess. But the headline says fact check.
He does like
Biden
news. He
leveraged
literally
$1
his
billion
entire
in aid to
his entire
Ukraine to
shtick is
oust
news. All
corrupt
right.
prosecutor, not
The
to help
fuck is his
company.
name?
Well,
Well,
hold
I
up.
know
If
that-
you
Which one
think
is
it's
it?
illegal,
Okay, all right.
Just
I'm
cite the
going
law
to
they
He
go.
literally just posted a
remind
video
all of you
recently saying
again
he's
that
preparing to leave the
interruption, talking over
country.
each other, and all of those things just doesn't fly by my book. It just doesn't fly. If you continue down this path, I'm going to make you all raise your stupid hands like children. Okay, Ryan,
Based.
you asked a question.
We
I
should
believe.
raise our hands like children.
If somebody one at a time wants to respond, that'd be great.
And then I
Yeah,
want to
I'll-
bring it back to what's happening now.
Sure. I'll respond. It's a joke, right? The Biden State Department or the Obama State Department and sycophants there said, we know that Joe Biden's intent was for good
Fuck,
reasons.
what the hell is
He
that dude's
forced
name?
the
I still
firing
can't
of a
remember the guy's
prosecutor
name
that
I'm
was
trying to
looking at
remember.
his son. And the argument is, oh, it's
fucking-
okay. He did that for good reasons.
I'm gonna
would
pull it
never
up on my
give Trump
phone.
that
I have
same
it on my
benefit of the doubt.
fucking
By the
alt
way,
on
just to
YouTube. I have
illustrate
YouTube
how
alts, by the way.
infactual you are, I just want the
That's
audience
what
to
level
think of
I'm
what
on.
one of the other things they said.
I should like
just so
my
you can see who has
stream
more
on my
credibility in
alts.
this issue. Ranting
Like
Mike and
realistically,
others,
it
I
would
believe,
probably
have
be a
said
smart
the following.
idea to like
The reason that
like and
Twitter
watch my
decided
stream
to
on
censor
my
the New York Post story
alts. But you know what?
was
I'm
because the New York Post,
not that kind
a
of guy, you
newspaper,
know. I'm more
had
genuine
dick
like that.
pics.
Not
So
like
when you
these other
went to the
YouTubers buying
newspaper
bot
stand,
farms to
when you
promote
went
their
to the
shit.
newspaper stand,
And that's why
there
you should
were
like the
dick
stream.
pics. That's
No
what the
links
article
to the
did.
dick
The
pics.
article has
That's what
links.
the
He said
Links.
specifically
You're
links to the
lying.
dick pics.
You're
Where
lying.
Links.
You're lying. You are lying.
I said
You can
links.
look 'em up,
You're
Sarah.
lying. It was
Okay,
censored.
fine,
it was
whatever.
censored under the hacked
David
material
Pakman,
policy.
that's who the fuck I
reason
was
that Twitter
thinking of.
gave
David
was,
Pakman.
we thought that this
Yeah, okay,
material
I
may
have the
been
same
hacked.
problem with
They did
Pisco
not
that I have with
say,
David
"We are
Pakman,
censoring
alright?
this
So they
because
broke
David
we
Pakman,
TOS, potentially.
You can't trust
So
him.
now you
He's
now
just
you ignore the fact that you
I
bullshit.
he's
said
like
broke
listening to
TOS
a
in my original
overly
statement. I
Trumpy
said it was a
Trump guy,
TOS
right?
issue,
Just the
buddy.
type of guy that you
So
know you
chill
can't
out.
take him seriously
You
about
said it was a
anything they say
TOS
about
issue
Trump.
because it had
That's
dick
how
So it's still a
fucking
TOS
that's how
issue,
these guys
okay?
are, right?
So it's a TOS issue.
Especially
Oh,
fucking
okay.
Pakman.
Let's-
Say you're stupid.
All right, you're killing
Liar.
me, Smalls.
It's
'Cause,
a
like,
distinction with a difference.
dude,
Robin,
I used to
You're
love
right.
Pakman, right? And you can
It's
judge a
for,
lot by
you
someone
know,
based on the type of
but-
literature that they
but
read.
what
Not
Rob
to
is
sound like a
saying
fucking
is
uh,
that
an uptight asshole, right?
was
Not to
a
sound like an
link
uptight
on the
asshole,
New
but you
York
can
Post
actually
article,
judge a lot
because
from
there
somebody
was,
based
to
on the
some
literature
hacked
that that they
materials.
read, right?
They were all
And
censored
There was a book. I
secondary
was watching
from
David
the New York
Packman
Post. New
before.
York
I was watching
Post
one of his videos
wasn't
like a fucking year or two ago,
showing
and he was just like,
anything
"Yeah, there's this book that I really like, and it's a
Ramsey,
fucking amazing
what
read,
you're
and I
doing
think
is you're
anybody that wants
trying
to
to
know
make a
more about
distinction
Donald
without a
Trump should
difference.
read this
Wait, hold
book."
up to the
And I was just like,
part
"Okay,
of the
yeah,
hacked
what's this
material.
book?"
Oh my God.
The video-
I don't wanna
Rant
talk
the
about the big
mic.
thing.
I'm going to say this one final
I was worried
time,
for a second,
okay?
jeez.
My
I'm gonna
patience is
turn
getting
down that.
low.
All right, I'm turning down
Please
the
stop
volume of the
interrupting
stream.
when somebody's making a point. Let 'em
Not
make
stream,
a
the
point.
the people talking, because you know what? It's streamer man
don't
talking. No.
care.
So David
It's their
Packman, he
point.
recommended this book called The Dangerous
I can
Case
answer
of
in 10
Donald
seconds.
Trump, which is some of the worst
That's what she said.
dog shittily awful fucking things I've ever read in my life. Okay, this is such a fucking partisan dog shit book to read, and the fact that David Packman would unironically like,
If we're
oh shit, I'm back in.
that, you know, the problem.
All
with
right,
what Trump did
we'll
was
rant more later.
Withheld congressional aid, and that was illegal because the president can't withhold congressional aid. Why wasn't it the same when Joe Biden threatened to withhold congressional aid?
Well, no one's saying that it's necessarily illegal for the executive branch to withhold congressional aid. It's an argument that was made, but quid pro quos are done all the time. That's regular negotiating posture. There are tons of times that you could point to when an executive branch says through their State Department or other intermediaries, the money that we've agreed to give you, you will only get if you meet certain benchmarks, right? The problem with the Biden situation in particular was that it seemed clear that there was an incredible personal benefit to Joe Biden. And that benefit came to fruition, by the way. They got rid of that prosecutor. New prosecutor came in. One of the first acts the new prosecutor did was drop the charges against Joe Biden's son's company.
So Rob, I'm siding with you here. The question I'm asking is, why is it illegal when Trump did it, but not when Joe Biden did it?
Yeah,
the
and that's the problem. It wasn't that it was illegal. It was that it was impeached. And so they impeached Trump because he did an alleged quid pro quo, which he didn't do a literal quid pro quo. They're saying it was implied in looking for evidence into Joe Biden's quid pro quo. So Joe Biden's quid pro quo was okay because the USA Today and Radical Coder will say, well, trust us, bro. He did it for a good reason and had nothing to do with his
All I
son.
did was read a thing.
Well,
I'm not saying I know any better. All I did was read a thing. I said,
Yeah,
this
he's
is
just
fake
reading, bro.
news. Come on.
He's just following
He's a
articles.
good reader. He reads very fluently. I'll give you that, Coder. So.
I like reading. I love learning. Learning is radical.
But I'm
There you go.
GPT/radical coder.
I just know a lot of people were pointing out like the difference is that what Trump did was illegal. But I don't understand like why that
They don't have a reason.
how that's the difference. I mean, you could say that the aim is different, or like direct State Department policy or whatever. That could be a thing. I don't know the merits of that, but I'm saying like, how would that make it legal?
Well,
The
parallel collection goes a long way as far as that goes. And Rob, you know this is the operation with FISA courts, wiretapping, all that kind of stuff. That was parallel collection. What happened with the Ukraine thing? There's a gentleman named John Kiriakou. Are you guys familiar with John Kiriakou?
No, we're not doing it. We're not going down another fucking rabbit hole. No.
Well,
listen,
this is
part of the postmodern neo-fascist.
I was about to go down the rabbit hole. Come on.
And very succinctly.
Oh.
Let me,
Very succinct.
Coder, can I bring it back to maybe something you want to talk about? Would you think that it would be fascist type behavior if Newsom himself called on the National Guard? Or is the act that Trump did it over Newsom, or is it the act that just deploying the National Guard in the first place is an act of fascism?
So I'm not against necessarily like deploying the National Guard. So no, I'd be okay if I mean it depends on why he's doing it. I might have I might disagree with it, like his reasons for doing it, but it wouldn't necessarily be like illegal or authoritarian.
So you would say then that anytime the president deploys the National Guard against the wishes of a governor, that's what would be authoritarian?
Yes, a little bit. At least it's characteristic of authoritarianism. But I understand that like this is what happened with the Brown v. Board, right? Like after Brown v. Board, like they sent the National Guard,
like with George Wallace, and right?
Yeah. But like I mean, the goal of that was to protect
Well,
black children from white supremacists.
I
who wanted
would
to
say
attack them
Brown
for
v.
doing
Board of
so.
Education was a little bit different because they had to march in because the states were directly going against the orders of the Supreme Court. They were told to desegregate. They weren't desegregating. They had to deploy the National Guard to force
That's a good point.
desegregation.
But nonetheless, the argument would be
So they're going to enforce the law rather than breaking the law.
Yes, exactly.
but that's
They were
something-
there
it's
to
in the
specifically
eye-
enforce the Constitution.
It's in the eye of the
Rob.
beholder, right? It's in the eye of the beholder, right? Like, would you say, regardless of the Supreme Court, let's assume that Trump packs the Supreme Court. He puts, now there's 15 justices, and they all say, like, yes, Gavin Newsom has to allow fucking white people to maraud and take over black people. Then you would say, in that world, if we get a Democrat president after that and says, we're sending in the National Guard to prevent this, you would say that's authoritarian? The Supreme Court spoke up and said that they have to be allowed to do this?
Wait, so I would I'm pretty sure that it's not necessarily illegal to deploy the National Guard over the governor as long as you invoke the Insurrection Act, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't.
Yeah. Well,
So I mean,
but
it
again,
would depend on whether or not that was done.
the
I think in
legality
the Civil
question.
Rights Act, in the Civil Rights era, it was.
The legality is secondary, I think, unless I'm misreading this, to Radical Coder's morality argument, right? That sort of it is authoritarian in its face.
I mean,
Well,
I think
authoritarianism
it's
is
one. Okay, hang on. It's one thing you could characterize as authoritarian, and then it's in a pattern of things that Trump does, which is almost always he regularly hedges on the edges of the law, like trying to assert and consolidate executive power to himself. Like he's authoritarian, like in spirit. Like
well,
The federal court did just deem it illegal, by the way. It'll go to the Supreme Court,
Yeah,
though.
that's true.
the appellates
Yeah.
just overruled it. So the appellates, like 20 minutes before I came on, overruled that court and said that, yeah, the injunction was stopped. So I guess to answer the legality question, that's simple. I guess we'll see. And if the court rules that it was legal, then you have no leg to stand on there. So I would think that you're making more of the morality argument.
I would still say that, like, the way he went about it, I think it was authoritarian, like in character. I would.
So then it's. But then it has more to do with like a morality of it, not the legality of it. You would agree with that? Regardless of how the Supreme Court rules, you're going to think this was authoritarian.
But I would say it's like a willingness to bend the law.
Should I expect some bullshit from our new arrival?
To play in the edges of the law, because I think there's a lot of debate about whether or not this is like obviously it's going back and forth, like debating whether or not it's legal. I think this is a very common theme with Trump, is that like we are playing in the edges of constitutional law.
Yeah, it's curious how that keeps coming up.
It's curious. It is curious.
It is a little curious.
Beliefs. It is right. It is curious.
Well, even the Supreme Court, the conservative Supreme Court keeps having to bring this up, right? Because like keeps on getting brought up to them. It's kind of curious how that happens.
Your curiosity means nothing to me. The fact.
Well,
that
okay, no, my curiosity stems from.
Again, please.
All right, my bad. Go ahead. Go.
No, Avis.
I'm just saying, my curiosity stems from the fact that when you look at Obama's term, we didn't see this type of behavior, right? We didn't see the blue Supreme Court constantly making decisions on the behalf of Obama. So that's where my curiosity stems from.
We didn't see the Supreme Court rule on behalf of Obama for Obamacare. We didn't see the Supreme Court intervene in terms of challenges to the Smith Modernization Act. The Supreme Court, in a number of cases, intervened on behalf of the Obama administration in terms of Obama having whistleblowers imprisoned, a number of other, there's precedent for a lot of this. There really is. It may not be in the exact category, but Obama and his Supreme Court were hand in glove. It's a pattern in DC. It really is.
Rob, you keep hitting your mic. I swear.
Maybe
like
something's going on. I'm
it.
so sorry. It might be. I need to get a new aperture here for. I think that it's springy, so maybe that's what you're hearing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll try to keep
metal
hands.
plate over your lap.
That's okay.
Rob.
If I could make a point, this is the thing: is that the reason why we've got into this rabbit hole, Ryan, about legality, is that you were missing the bigger point that Rob was making, which is if this is a principled position that you hold, regardless of whether it's legal or not, or whether it has legal backing or not, if it happens to be morally similar to other things, then that means that you would not have some type of dissonance on your side. That's what he's trying to point out, is that if you make these kinds of things, that would happen.
So if we're comparing unleashing the national or using the National Guard to quell allegedly mainly riots, but obviously there weren't enough riots for that to make sense right now. So it's, I would argue, to quell protests, to disincentivize people from protesting. If we're comparing that to people or to sending the National Guard to protect black children so they could go to school, I think morally one of these is very obviously much more acceptable.
Legally,
let me
there's-
answer this question because I don't think you're going to give me an answer, but you probably don't think people's property or their safety is worth upholding either. Then, huh?
Of course I do.
So if you have cars that are on fire, you have police vehicles being
We not have.
damaged, that you wouldn't step in for that.
I don't think that we. Wait, I think that there are plenty of enforcement arms that are already dealing with those problems. That's what.
Yeah.
that's
You mean
Even
you mean
Gavin-
the fact that there was a highway shut down by a bunch of guys throwing rocks at police cars? You call that being contained? You call that being?
I mean,
Well, like
would we-
even
would we-
Gavin in his speech, he said
I mean,
all
is
of
it still
the
shut down?
Waymo
Is that-
thieves
wait,
they're
hang on,
going to
hang on.
jail.
No, let me
Okay.
go back. Let me go,
David.
Mosman.
David.
Is that highway still shut down?
One at a time. One at a time.
Yeah.
Spicoli, you're why don't you hop out and fix
Yeah,
your
you
mic
sound
and come
crazy
back
right
in?
now,
It
but
sounds
yeah,
terrible.
please try again. Mosman, is that highway still shut down?
Yeah, no, yeah, it is. No, it's not. But guess what happened? There was also the National Guard that was brought in there.
Did the
and
National
threat of
Guard?
Marines.
Wait, did the National Guard fix that?
It doesn't matter if they fixed it or not.
Doesn't it?
No, it doesn't.
I don't
would
think
we-
people
would we
realize
really
how
say-
big
It
the
matters pretty
LAPD
much.
is
I think
and
it's exactly,
militarized.
Would we really
if the
say that?
LAPD handled it,
Right.
then
Yeah.
that makes my
LAPD
point.
handles riots probably more
And-
than any city.
Calvin
Yeah.
Collage coming in with a Big Ten says, Rob's lying again. How dare you, Rob? Trump could not ask Zelensky for a Biden investigation because Joe was presidential candidate, and FEC law prevented Trump for asking foreign nation for a thing of value in connection to a U.S. election. I'll
So I
leave it
could-
open to you,
Look,
Rob.
I have this
dispense
shit
with
happen
this in
so
many
fucking
ways.
much.
One,
Anytime I try to
under this
fucking talk,
interpretation,
that's
what
the
Calvin
issue.
College
All
would
right.
say is if you are a criminal in the United
So,
States,
like,
all you
that's
have
what
to
I
do is
find funny.
announce that you're
Motherfuckers just
running
like,
for
I don't talk
president,
enough,
and
then I try to
that
talk,
means
it's like I'm
the executive
talking too
branch
much.
is no longer allowed to ask cooperation from any foreign government into any potential criminal investigations into you. Second, Joe Biden was not the formal elect at that point. He was just someone that was looked at as a potential competitor to Donald Trump. Third, the Obama administration, during the run-up to the 2016 election, frequently asked our foreign allies for evidence into potential Russia collusion that was targeted at the Trump administration. Fourth, can you show me the FEC fining or announcing that there was a violation against the Trump campaign for this? It is an absurd statement to think that the executive branch cannot cooperate or ask for the cooperation of foreign institutions into criminal investigations because it would be a thing of value that could affect the election.
Calvin, I love you for pushing back, but I hate you for making us sit through that.
I moved on. I moved on.
I mean,
wasn't,
he's not wrong.
But
Rob's
to
not wrong. He's
to
not.
go back to the point, I mean, would we really say that like throwing rocks at police cars and like a car burning is a big enough threat to go over the governor's head to deploy the National Guard illegally?
No, that's
Is
not
that-
what I'm saying. See, now you're conflating my point, which is now, and this is what we're doing, and this easy gets into whataboutism. What I'm trying to say is I'm looking at what Ryan is saying because he just said, yeah, to protect black kids from being able to go into school, that's a good thing. And I'm saying, okay, isn't it good then? Because unless you guys are going to make the case that the police had it completely handled, and if that's the case, then it was an action of them being told by politicians not to do something. There's either an official policy that did not, whatever that is, and that would still be put on
No matter
on the
what
state,
explanation,
and that's
as long
why
as it's something that makes the left look bad. It's
no,
it's
it's
the
not.
proper
No,
explanation.
No,
what
I think
what I,
Ryan's point was they were actively defying the Supreme Court. Not it wasn't about like the level of violence or what they could or couldn't handle. It was they were sent in because the police force were not
There was-
cooperating with the
there was
law.
also-
right, and
legal-
and
there
there
was
and
also-
people could make a claim for the same thing with
For the LAPD,
no, yeah, with the LAPD and with and-
where no, you would have to show me something that the LAPD was not cooperating with,
with lawful order,
or that they were breaking the law. What do you? No, what?
You would also kind of have to show that the LAPD is not a fully militarized.
Yeah, they're a
force
military
ready to
themselves.
freaking wreck shop on
Definitely
literally
are.
any
They can fuck it up,
unsuspecting
you know.
freaking weirdo
And-
at any
okay.
moment because they're really good at that. And they're kitted out for it.
But
Well,
if I
also, I
can,
mean, again, I mean, they signed the Insurrection Act. There is legal justification there. That's a very big distinction between the two things. There's legal justification to go over the governor's head in the civil rights era. There's not legal justification as it stands right now for Donald Trump to go over the governor's head to deploy the National Guard.
And why? And why is that?
It's
Why
been
is that?
33
Because the U.S.
years
code that he
since the last
cited
time
requires
the
it going
National
through the
Guard and
governor.
Marines were deployed to LA. It's been 33 years. You got to celebrate the really big anniversaries. And so now we have Marines and the National Guard back in LA. People are cracking skulls, and they've got brand new flags that are fresh out the box, and all kinds of NGOs and all kinds of nonprofit organizations that have funded the brand new signs and the fresh-faced little protesters. And oh boy, it's the summer of love all over again. And
here's-
hey,
I
look,
don't know what that was.
This is-
I don't either, but
Yeah.
K2 keep on trucking. It's sending the summer of love with the Big Ten just to talk to Kissy Cat. Haha, Kissy Cat. My meal was over. Had to wait on my trailer. Did my pre-trip. A swing to barn doors shut, and then slide my tandems up. Joke's on you. I
Take
love
that,
that
Kissy Cat.
they communicate to each other via super chat. It's lovely.
Yeah.
What a
You guys
creep.
can try that
It's-
over over my channel too. Just so you know.
So
But-
the
No, I think this is the issue with deploying the National Guard, right? Even on the 6th, the first day of protesting in front of the courthouse, 30 people were already arrested, right? The police were already acting, they were already getting the agitators out of the way, right? Were there people still setting fire to the Waymos, and was things getting pretty out of hand? Yes, but it was only regulated to a few city blocks. And once those people got dispersed, they would arrest the people that tried to stay behind. They were getting, 30 and 40 guys each time they dispersed one of these crowds. That's the issue of deploying the National Guard. It's a question of, was it actually necessary? Because even when you look at cases like Seattle during the Black Lives Matter protests, right? Super Blue Seattle, they let Bellevue get fucking destroyed, raided, all the shit like that, right? But all those guys that went and did the raids, they got like 3-4 years of prison time afterwards, right? Even the ones that they didn't get at the protests at the time, they waited like 6 months later, knock on your door, you got taken by the police, right? So we can't really make the definitive statement right now that the police weren't doing anything, because from my perspective, they were arresting people, they were getting agitators.
But if I may, two things. One, the Chaz zone's not going to help you, because that's an example of.
I wasn't
when
talking
the
about
National Guard-
Chaz.
Okay, well, you mentioned Seattle, I assume. The Chaz
Yeah, I
zone,
was
for
talking about
example, they
Bellevue
stood
specifically.
down- the
Oh my
mayor-
God, you keep interrupting him. Let him finish. Go ahead, Rob.
the mayor or whatever allowed the Chaz zone to occur. And unfortunately, we saw a 14-year-old African American that was killed in that Chaz zone. That should have been an incident where Trump should have deployed against the wishes of the governor and mayor, the National Guard. The other thing is, I think, I could be wrong, I'm willing to have anyone correct me, but isn't sort of the primary justification for the sending in of the Guard, it was to protect federal officials and a federal building. And so the argument was, it's not necessarily to prevent the Nike store from being looted, it's that federal officials are lawfully going in and making ICE raids, right? They're being attacked, and the LAPD was unable to protect them at that moment. And so we sent in federal troops to protect those federal officials. What would be the argument as to why that shouldn't be allowed?
He should have signed the Insurrection Act. I mean, it just wasn't legal in the way that he did it.
Well, we'll see. If the court says you're wrong, then who's right? You were the court, Rignol.
Where were these
Probably the
instances
court, but
of
I mean,
federal
the
officials
text
being
of the law
attacked?
seems pretty clear to me. I don't know. I mean, it says through the governor in the law explicitly that he cites.
I don't think Supreme Court's gonna side with him. I don't
So,
think
so
I
what
think
I'm
they will.
seeing
I
from
think
both
they will.
from you guys is two different competing answers on this idea of legality and also on scale, right? So, and my point of bringing this up is, again, if you're going to make it on the basis of legality, and it's completely based on the legality of something, and then we have to get into that. If it's an issue of scale, that's another valid point to make, is to say, hey, it didn't warrant that intrusion. And of course, I think the other one that you guys aren't really hitting on is that Trump obviously did intervene with the state's ability to do their job, for whatever reason you want to ascribe that for. So,
Sorry, John. Who would like to read this?
Nah, I'm not. I'm not going to
I'll read
agitate
that.
just yet.
Okay,
All right,
this
we
is
gotta
a
wait. We gotta
10-hour
build up a following first, and then we do the agitating.
Normal America with Rob Noer. And the chant reads, Rob, is the smartest and most handsome person on this panel.
I would like to make a quick comment on that.
That was me. I
actually have Rob on record.
There.
I actually have Rob on record calling me a liar for saying that I was only slightly less handsome than, or slightly more handsome than him. And what he said was, what he followed that up with was that I was much more handsome than him. So this is just another example of Rob Noir coming on the panel and spreading misinformation.
That's true. I can't argue with that.
Let's do this.
You know what? That's based.
Number
Keep ranting.
Number one for the if you want to continue on, ladies and gentlemen, you have one more super chat to meet, and then we will get our DGen Power Hour, and I'll keep going. But if you don't match that goal, then Sarah goes night, and I'm okay with it. Number two, I'm going to start a poll. Who is more handsome, Rob or Ryan? Okay, don't fail me. Who is more handsome? And we will leave that one up
Go over there and vote.
a little bit. Yeah, if anybody wants to come in from either side and vote, the poll is up.
Kissy Cat probably wants to see the harder I'm staring, the more I'm going with me.
I voted for Ryan, so I
Yeah, I would say Ryan, because he's definitely got the late 90s, early 2000s CW teen WB look going on.
You're like halfway in between.
For the One Tree Hill reboot.
You are.
You can vote. You can vote for Ryan if you choose to vote for the dog. He gets the double option there. But Rob does have a dog too, who is quite adorable as well. She's probably sleeping. We're not going to wake her up.
I have 3 dogs in the house tonight because my wife's sister's here.
Why the fuck are we doing this?
Pyrenees, he's giant. He would knock over my.
Why the fuck are we talking about dogs?
Nice. That would be
Fuck
nice.
talking about dogs. I don't like dogs. Well, I love dogs.
My
Okay.
two little
There's a fucking
fluffy
panel.
ladies are upstairs
All right, we're talking about
snoozing as
politics,
well.
not dogs.
Dear Lord, you guys
cut this shit out.
You guys have less
I
than
don't give a
2
fuck about
minutes
your fur baby.
to make that one last super chat goal. Literally, you just have one more. One more. Are you gonna let $5 stand in the way of you in 1 hour? Don't do it. I promise you, it's not worth it. We shut down early the other night too. 1.5 minutes.
Is there? 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
There may be I'll be honest. I was trying to send a super chat. It won't let me. I don't know why. I really am. I'm trying.
While they figure it out, I actually have to pee again. I'm sorry. I'll be right. I gotta go to the little coder's room. So
You got a little tiny bladder. Let me see. Let's see if it makes sure it works on my end here. Yeah, I'm seeing it on my end. Maybe it's just you, Rob. Maybe because you should. There we go. Jason Cassell sending in the big 5. You guys always wait literally till the last freaking minute. I don't know why you do it, but you guys should stop. You get me all high anxiety over here. You get me all like, oh my god,
to build it up.
Actually, And K2 keep on trucking says Coom. JB sends the big 2, trying to buy us out, but didn't make it with the only $2. You got to hit it with the 5 to hit the goal. Jason Cassell hitting in with the 5 to hit the goal. Kissy Cat saying win dogs. Yeah, we'll see if we can get Umbreon on screen here in a minute. Last super chat, Coom. EOD sends a big 5, says kick ranting Mike double the time because he talked back. Well, I can't double the time unless you pay to double the time. So I'll put 5 minutes back there unless you pay another 5 to double the time. Okay, it's not that hard. Who's typing and making noise?
That's my fault. I'm so sorry.
Oh, and I'm gonna yell at you, Rob. Jesus.
I brought Umbreon for a cameo.
The ability not to spurg right now is actually fucking impossible. I just want to scream and start fucking cracking out. All right, that's the issue. I just want to start Look, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about your dog. Fuck that fur baby motherfucker.
You're so cute, dude.
Get him off the screen, you piece of shit.
Dogs, it's you gotta like lift them up and everything. And then Naughty German with the big 5 says, keep it going. All right, you guys have purchased your DGen Power Hour. Ranting Mike is backstage for 5 minutes at this time. Outside of that, I'm going to leave the panel. I'm going to kick the panel back to Ryan. And if you want to kick something off, and then you guys can go.
Sure. So does anyone, I guess, does anyone here disagree with my characterization of the postmodern neo-fascist movement? Like I'd like to kind of talk about the main topic here. I guess for Rob, if you want me to back up, because I know you weren't here.
Yeah, I missed that too. Please reiterate
Sure.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, let me give so very quickly. This is the definition I'm working with, okay? It's the fusion of postmodernism's weaponized doubt with neo-fascism's drive for rigid hierarchy, and it produces an authoritarian politics that rewrites reality in order to rule it. What do you think about that?
I would
Sounds like
offer
a
a
bunch
very
of-
different
What?
definition, but I understand where you're coming from, and I'd like to hear you explore it a little bit more. But I
Yeah, so
have
some
a
of the
very
examples
different
that I pulled
definition.
up. So I pulled up some examples of Trump joking like, "Knock the hell out of him. I'll pay your legal bills. Maybe I should run for a third term. He who saves his country breaks no laws. Long live the king." And it's like, well, he's joking, right? He's joking, but like, he's also kind of not joking, right? He's also
He's joking until he's not.
Exactly. He's joking up until the point where he has the political capital to not be joking anymore.
Okay, so first off, in the words of the great Norm Macdonald, that sounds like a bunch of fucking commie gobbledygook to start with. Like, we'll go with that.
Oh my.
So, like,
Oh, no.
the idea of like postmodernism. So, the core tenet of postmodernism, me being a redneck that doesn't understand philosophy that well, would be something akin to real truth doesn't exist. All truth is subjective.
Sort of. It's more of a critique of objective truth, as far as I understand it. It's when people claim that they have the objective truth, that should be met with extreme skepticism because of the nature of language and stuff. It's closer to that, I think.
Okay, so then give the second part of your definition again. So we should meet people with extreme skepticism that claimed. Do you yourself believe that objective truth exists?
I don't know.
Shouldn't we meet that with skepticism?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dun,
Now,
dun,
the second
dun.
part of your definition was, I'm so sorry to have you repeat it, but I'm just trying,
No,
you
it's okay.
understand it's sort of a long definition, so I'm just trying to wrap my head around it.
Yeah. Let me pull it back up. Yeah. The neo-fascist drive for rigid hierarchy that's the main thing. Rigid hierarchy and producing an
right before
authoritarian
that part.
politics.
Right before that part, you said something about rewriting reality or something like that.
Oh, no, that's after. So it's neo-fascism's drive.
This
for
does
rigid
sound like a
hierarchy
bunch of commie bullshit.
produces an
Not even
authoritarian
lying.
politics that rewrites reality in order to rule it.
Well, it
So
seems
it's
like
really
you're
about like the power grab of the narrative narrative control through power grabs. Yeah.
So it seems like there's some internal contradictions within your own definition, right? So, for example, the beginning part of it talks about sort of this postmodernist reflection, or I forget the exact words you use. Then when I ask you to like, well, what's the core tenet of postmodernism? You're like, well, basically it's a critique of objective truth, and we should be critical of anyone that claims objective truth. And then at the end, you're like, it leads to a rewriting of reality, right? Now, the implication there would be you know what reality is, hence you know what objective truth is, which you just got done telling us we should be skeptical of you for making that claim.
I agree. You should be. I like where you're going with it, and I agree. And so just to be 100% clear, I think you've hit the weakest part of my definition, and I really appreciate you catching on to that. But like so I wanna explain to you a little bit more about the root of my what I'm pointing to is or what I'm alluding to is Jordan Peterson's postmodern neo-Marxism, right? And I would say that he was kind of doing the inverse of what you're pointing to, and that he was arguing he was using postmodernism or critiquing postmodernism for what you're saying, like or what you initially described it as. He was strawmanning it in that way. And it's kind of interesting the way that he used language. He kind of played with the language of postmodernist theory to demonize it, and I think that I'm leveraging that that narrative that he created to point at a different phenomenon that I see. So I do appreciate that you pointing that out.
But did you just?
Yeah.
It seems like you may have just said Jordan Peterson made a critical error when identifying postmodernism, and now I'm leveraging that error for my statement, which is that like this. I assume this isn't a statement you made like flippantly. This was your statement that you made, crafted for the entire panel. And I think that again, you
far beyond the
leveraging
panel.
Yeah, you leveraging Jordan Peterson's like inaccurate criticism doesn't seem to be an explanation for the internal contradiction within your own statement.
Well,
I don't get why it isn't.
Because what I'm doing is I'm using I'm leaning more into the neo-fascist segment of it. What I do when I'm doing here is I'm trolling.
Okay, because it kind of sounded like you were blaming a pill junkie for your inefficient definition.
No,
no.
So I'm playing with his failure to engage with postmodernism.
Right, but why would you want to put that into your description of fascism and have anyone take you serious or at face value?
It's cute. So I think that me playing with it is really great demonstration.
See, the first thing he fucked up on is he thought he could use a definition of fascism. That's where he fucked up.
The game I'm playing.
You can't mention fascism. That's the rule number one.
And I appreciate it because I'm playing it too with this definition.
Okay, but if I wasn't here, the audience wouldn't have known that you were playing with that definition. And so they wouldn't have received an accurate...
I introduced this at the beginning. I kind of said that I like what Jordan Peterson was pointing to and how he missed it, and what I'm pointing to separately. I had a really long spiel. So
yeah, he did run through like the different variations and how it kind of merged along. And for the record, Rob, you officially won the Most Handsome Award here on Poll. The chat has voted. There were 47 votes total. 85% of them said Rob, and 14% of them said Ryan.
Well,
so we've learned one thing.
That's the
decimated
truth now, right?
We've learned one thing. Sarah's got the audience with the poorest eyesight in all of the internet. So
oh no!
Sarah has the audience with the most chubby chasers in it, and
that could be
also true.
It's always a good thing.
Yeah, to each their own. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Or they like their men older. It could be.
Yeah, they like real men.
Listen,
none of these lip cucks.
Hey, Sarah. Sarah, I like my girls a little bit older. You get that reference, right?
Oh goodness.
Ryan, could I offer an alternative definition for neo-fascism to you?
Yeah,
because
I'm open to all
classically,
critiques.
fascism, right, was the merger of the corporate state and the governance state.
The key component,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, and that was Mussolini's fascism.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
2025, I would offer that we have well moved into an era where the public-private partnership.
Do I want to
as it
argue
were,
post-racial
has
fascism
taken
right now?
A forefront.
Do I
role
reveal my power
in
level and argue
governance,
post-racial
not just
fascism?
domestically, but globally. And
Not sure.
that what
I'm thinking about it. It would be fun.
neo-fascism is, at this point in 2025 is kind of the intersection of various Marxist movements that coincide with the same sort of global governance goals as various corporate entities throughout the Western world. And they're currently meeting in Stockholm, Sweden right now.
So I think the kind of corporatist, I think there's an interesting conversation to be had about like the way that the corporate and state like merging is like besides being core to fascism, that it is absolutely like a kind of it is like neoliberalism in a way. This is a big part of neoliberalism, at least. But I think that this is why it's important to acknowledge the other key components of fascism, the other things that have emerged like alongside different instances of fascism throughout history.
It would be like militarism among the citizenry in order to achieve political aims, kind of like when Black Lives Matter gathered and burned down Minneapolis and a number of other cities all across the US.
Wouldn't you agree that most of the actual like changes that Black Lives Matter achieved, which like police reform didn't come from them rioting, it came from the protests and them clearly saying like what they were pushing for. Like doing damage didn't change the laws. It was because they were peacefully protesting. A lot of them were, regardless of the fact that a lot of people weren't. Still a vast majority were, and the police reforms that they got were very valuable. Like chokehold bans and forcing certain officers or officers in certain places to intervene when they saw police brutality happening. And these are like great things that I'm really glad that Black Lives Matter pushed for those things because they got them and they help people, they save lives.
If I may, real quick, I'm so sorry. I think this is a great conversation, but I did tell my audience I got something going on at 1 a.m. here. Ryan, I thought, thank you so much for letting me come on and talk to you and everyone else.
Course,
and Sarah, a pleasure as always. So I enjoyed everyone here, and hopefully I'll get to talk to you all soon. So
yeah, I'll see you.
Have a great
It was
one.
good seeing you.
Rob.
Have a camera
Have
to
a
camera,
good one.
Rob.
Have
No
a good
problem.
night.
Take it
Handsome
easy.
boy,
Yep.
you.
Thank you. We'll see you.
Look, he gave me enough. Okay, I get to make a video with Rob. All right, that's what I get.
What's up, gang?
How's
Hey,
it
Ryan.
going?
Can I ask Ryan a question? How many police officers did LA lose since 2019?
Oh, that's a good question.
2,000. How many National Guard people did Trump send to LA? 2,000.
4,000.
Or was it 4,000? Oh, it's
I don't
more
know.
now. Okay.
Yeah, it was
Initially
2,000 at
more than
first.
2,000.
Yeah.
Is that
yeah,
Wait,
two-
so they
2,000 at
they
first
lost
and now
2,000? How-
4,000.
Like
yeah.
what do you mean they lost
2,000.
2,000 plus
They had a
2,000
certain-
plus
they had a
700
they had a
Marines.
certain amount, and then they lost that 2,000 off of that amount. I can't
What
remember
does
the exact
that
amount.
what does that do to Mr. Bill? Is that people moving, retiring, different districting, rezoning? Like what do you attribute?
All sorts
I don't
of
understand.
the above or whatever. Probably a lot of being disgruntled or whatever. I would imagine a lot
Well,
of cases.
looking
based on some of the
nationwide,
policies of the city.
a lot of different departments lost police officers that just retired during COVID. They just didn't want to deal with COVID, so they just
Or
legitimately
they got
retired.
pissed off. They got pissed off about
Yeah,
the
there were a
idea
whole
of
bunch
Accountability.
defund the police, which I think it's funny that a bunch of
Oh yeah,
liberals
but
who were
when it
like,
comes down to the retirement
defund the police, and then
Or being
they're,
called
and then they're
ACAB
now
all the
supporting
time.
the police, right?
Accountability didn't sound very good to
Also,
them.
real quick, according to the Epoch Times, which is I'm pretty sure a right-leaning outlet, it looks like the actual numbers it's about 1,000 that they lost over like since 2019 to 2023. There's about 1,000 less.
Give you my source later, but anyway, they had lost quite a few. Is the point though? So is it
Sure, yeah. I
better
mean,
to have
well,
more,
yeah,
more
like
people
we'll
that,
mention
when you have
Katrina
riots
stuff.
I'm
going
sorry if I
on?
don't get your source now according to Grid. You're bullshit.
Wait, what were the
There you
levels
go.
6 years later? Because that was a while ago now.
The point they lost 1,000. My main point is the fact that when you lose people over time, and then all of a sudden you have a lot of riots going on, is it going to be better to have a quick replenishment of that to take care of the riots, or are you going to slowly bring up the amount of police officers or bring people out of the police academy? What would be the better way to handle the riots?
Rooftop Koreans is always the best solution.
Who would-
Yeah, agreed.
Second best.
Well, have
Who
they
would know
reached
the
that
better answer to
since?
that question? The people who live in that city and state, or a person who lives the entire country away?
Yeah, I live in Florida. I don't want to. I mean, I lived in California for like a year, but it was a while ago. No, and I was.
No, it's a good question. It's a good question he's asking. I'm just saying, who would better know the answer to that? The people
People who are
directly
watching
involved?
it on TV, continuous violence, and
Wait,
the
the people
police are there
watching it on
unable.
TV would know the answer.
The people
And the-
watch.
The
police
the
o-
people who obsess over every little thing like that. they're
Police
the ones-
officer in charge of the city
the ones
said
who
they
are,
were
like, trying
overwhelmed.
so hard to be like insurrection,
What's
insurrection.
the word overwhelmed mean? It means they can't handle it. So if they can't handle it,
I think if they're getting
that's the LA
overwhelmed,
police chief
the
says
TV
you
would
can't
not be
handle
the
it.
first ones
What would
to
be the
know,
best way to
right?
do that?
So, Mr. Bill, per the deployment orders for the National Guardsmen, they're only there to stand in front of federal property. They can detain, but they can't arrest. That's
Right. There's this little thing called the Posse Comitatus Act,
They,
which stops
they
that
are not
military from
guards.
being used.
They are
in
not
these states.
guardsmen anymore. They are federal.
And look, that doesn't mean that they can't detain somebody and then put them in a makeshift Quonset hut 70 miles away from.
As soon as he
where
said
they
the
detained
Posse
them.
Comitatus Act,
That's also.
I get the nagging suspicion they just watched The Daily Show. I'm not even gonna lie.
As far as
They could have done their own research, but I just get the feeling it was from The Daily Show.
To lend an invocation of restoring order, and what the guard is there for is to stand in front of fairly nondescript concrete buildings with fancy kits and looking fairly menacing to make sure that a random skinny jeans wearing queer mode doesn't come up and spray paint the nondescript concrete.
They were federalized to protect federal assets. Therefore, Gavin Newsom had no say-so in the matter. For the guard to be called up, Gavin Newsom would be in charge of the guard, and then the guard could be used as riot control. But they are federalized. Just like we just sent 700 Tennessee guardsmen over to the Middle East. Not by the governor's choice, because the president federalized them and sent them. So
Well,
they were federal. They cannot arrest people. They're there to protect federal property. They are not doing riot
You know,
control.
we're talking about the
on
legal
street.
process of calling them in.
Or personnel.
We're talking
also.
about the legal process of bringing them in, not whether they should be brought in or not, but what the legal process to do it is.
Well,
In
and I don't know.
93, when I was placed on flood duty, I was in the National Guard. The president federalized us and put us on flood duty. Not the governor, the president.
First to do that, though.
You probably had.
I don't know what.
The governor was probably on board with that as well, right?
Most likely.
I don't know, to be honest with you. I just know I got a phone call.
Something that's already federal.
Disaster relief, they were probably working together.
And also,
it's an
something I found-
assumption. I don't know for
Sucks.
sure.
In,
But
in 2005, when we needed our National Guard for Katrina, they were federalized and sent to Iraq.
Right.
This
True.
real quick, this is from
January
an
2020.
AI summary, so I would take it with a grain of salt. But it says that the city, like in regards to them saying they're overwhelmed, according to Gavin Newsom, apparently the city requested additional support, including the deployment of 800 more state and local police officers. So they were getting backup.
And that, and I
so
think that's something that's missing here too, is that it is within the purview of the governor with working with the mayor of LA to say, can we bring in California State Patrol, California State Police? But the other thing that's being missing is the fact that California, like most states, has a state guard. You do have smaller guards, state guards, who are like the National Guard. They're just not federalized, and they could have brought them in, but they didn't.
I just realized we
But he doesn't
lost the
wanna
host of
protect
the
ICE
panel.
officers, so he's not going to bring his own people there.
What kind of
to
fucking
protect-
shit is this? We don't have the host. Where'd the host go?
Need, not whether it's not whether he can or
Let me
not,
go to
it's
her
need.
stream,
You don't
actually.
wanna
Where the fuck is the
unnecessarily
host?
Do these things when it's not warranted.
I just
because
realized
you
she's
can
gone.
Cause escalation in the temperature on the ground.
That's what I was going to ask. Honest question, does everyone agree that depending on how you use the military, you can either escalate or de-escalate the situation?
Oh, absolutely.
Can we just... Okay, as long as we can agree there and not be like the military will always solve our problems.
Right, and they're not supposed to be used in this manner, especially the Marines. Right, our military forces are not supposed to be used in the on our native land unless there's a federal emergency or like an invasion or something like that. Right.
So, does this particular moment do the 2020 BLM riots?
Okay,
do
yeah,
any
we're
of
still
these,
being live
do
streamed.
These events, even
It's just
occupied,
the
do they
host
look
is
like
gone. All right, we have no host now. There's basically no
aspect-
moderator.
they have
It's
similar aspects to
fucking
various
Mad
different
Max in
color
these streets.
revolutions that we
Oh,
witnessed
yeah.
all over. Okay, so if we're looking at it through that lens, if it looks like a color revolution to, I don't know, even 2, 3, 4 of you guys, is it out of the scope of reality that both the guard response, Marine response, and the on-the-ground violence in conjunction with what's about to go down on Saturday is something that is orchestrated to, let's say, provide justification for the contracts that Palantir has recently signed with the federal government to centralize all of our data, to put us all...
I'm with you on Palantir. I'm just curious as to why you would want to compare us all to color revolutions instead of the actual history of protest in the country.
Well, honestly, looking at, okay, so I'm 47 years old. I've been
the country starts with violent protest.
for sure, 100%. In the modern era, and I've been on the ground for plenty. I'm struggling to think of more than 2 or 3 protests I've been to since Free Mumia in '92 in Indianapolis, Indiana, that was like any kind of organic. I think that because they're largely driven, funded by, and most of the people that speak at them are represented by all of the various nonprofits and NGOs that we've all seen throughout history to be completely part and parcel of either the State Department or various intelligence agencies, or compromised by all of them, that you would be hard pressed.
I mean, you're mixing in like some stuff that makes sense, and then you kind of go a little off into the
what's
everything's
not
a
making
conspiracy
land.
land.
What isn't making sense?
Well, I mean, I agree with you that moneyed interest will always have an advantage over us in organization.
Yeah, like
That's
they'll
why they're always
co-opt
the
us,
loudest,
but
for sure. And yeah, they'll definitely co-opt us, and there's so much noise out there, but you can't say that everything that is out there is like some kind of
what was the name of the protests in 2010 in New York?
Because I'm sorry. Let me clarify.
Like people constantly saying that
I'm
the
not
CIA is operating in the U.S. when their entire purpose is to operate outside the U.S.
Or that
Seriously, what the fuck is the name of that protest?
Soros is behind everything.
I'm trying to say that there aren't legitimate
Soros
people
owes
with
me so much
legitimate
fucking
grievances
money,
that are
dude.
on the ground at
George
all.
Soros, if you're
Protests in New
watching
York in
this, dude, Send
2010.
me those checks, bro. I've been
checks
doing
did
this
not
for
clear.
years, and I'm broke.
According to
There are legitimate people on
CBSNews.com,
the
biggest
ground
New York event.
protesting things, addressing grievances.
Occupy
I was
Wall
on the ground
Street.
at January
Okay,
6th.
Occupy
I was
Wall
with
Street.
everybody
That's what the
else
fuck
was.
I'm remembering.
I was walking up
Yeah,
the
okay.
ellipse. I was talking to a number of different people who all felt like they were there to address specific grievances. I was there on behalf of the media. I was there for a different thing. I was already in DC that week for a totally different event, and I had found out about the Stop the Steal thing months before and was like, oh, heck yeah, I'm sticking around for that because it's going to be hilarious. And it was. But for most of it, it was day drunk Woodstock, and it was lame until it got rowdy. And what got rowdy, we have seen over and over and over how most of that was orchestrated. So
I disagree, AM.
It-
I think most of the right wingers I debate haven't seen over half the videos of what happened that day.
True.
Okay, I was there, and I was there a week before it. I've spent like
Welcome
a
back.
long time looking at this stuff since, and I've probably viewed close to 20,000 hours overall of video from almost every conceivable different camera person on the ground. I
Right, to
know
the
a lot
point
of
where
these
you
people
could say
personally.
where the violence was happening, where it wasn't happening, where people were just
20,000
chilling,
hours.
and where like crazy.
Yeah, and who
20,000
started it, and
hours
what
when
they
there's
looked like,
24
and what
hours
they
in
were
a
dressed
day.
like, and where their comms were, and who they
Fascinating.
met with beforehand, and who they met with
Who
after.
I definitely
organized-
believe
who
what this man is
orchestrated it,
saying.
and who had text messages organizing and planning exactly what they were going to do.
Yeah, and who also decided not to scale down the DC police for that event. Yeah, like Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, and Nancy Pelosi's daughter having a bunch of people on film, casually.
Why was it up to
discussing
Nancy
how this
Pelosi?
operation was going to roll out, and it was
Yeah, wouldn't Trump have the
Yeah.
final word? on,
No,
like, whether or
no,
not-
no, 'cause- no, it's
You think the
capital.
president
It's
is acting
capital.
Wait, so why didn't
He
Nancy
did.
Pelosi stop him from sending the National Guard to California right now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
she has
not
that
DC.
Yeah,
Not
she has the
DC.
power.
She was in charge of Capitol Police at the time as
Mhm.
Speaker of the
Yeah,
House.
I agree. The House does have
Yeah.
special powers over Washington D.C. as a
Okay,
place.
Howdy.
Yeah, yeah.
But over
Until they
Trump,
become a
like
state.
over
Yeah, like
president?
over the president of
Yes.
the United
No,
States.
just over like the.
I don't
yeah.
think
But when it
so.
comes to
think so.
how certain
No.
local DC assets are used,
Over the
Speaker of the
commander
House.
in chief.
yes,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Yeah, Nancy
that's
Pelosi
giving
had
DC
final
Yeah,
word
it's
on the
giving- it's
National
giving
Guard.
the
Like
DC
how-
yeah.
I'll wait for a sec. Sorry, guys.
Well, I
This
think
is
the
jumping
way
right
that
in.
we're talking
Someone
is that
check
they're
that, because I
considered
don't think
the
that's
governing
true.
body of the district, but
definitely
even
not
though the
true.
president is still considered
No,
of the
it is.
country.
There's checks and balances.
And also,
like you guys like to say in the
regardless,
Supreme Court.
if Trump wanted them to stop, he could have tweeted how special they were many hours before he finally did. When they did stop, when
If
he
you
tweeted,
actually
"Hey,
look
go
at
home. You're very
Trump's
special. We
tweets,
love
man,
you."
he,
Blah blah. blah.
he
We
was
know. We
telling
know. you-
people to step
won
down,
this
go
thing.
away, chill
Now
out.
we're really going
Yeah,
down that rabbit hole.
yeah,
Sorry for
very,
I
very
know,
digging
I
us
know.
deeper.
You know,
Yeah,
you're
that's great.
all talking over each other, and I haven't heard a single word any of you have said.
So one thing is often overlooked is that, and look, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. I think that politicians are rented mules for the oligarchy. This has nothing to do with defense of an individual. But if you
This guy might
go
actually be a
back to
populist.
tweets from Donald Trump,
Like
from
an
that
actual
day,
full-blown populist. This is
very
fucking
early
insane.
on,
One in the
like,
wild.
even at the first notice of like any sort of shenanigans, Trump is out there going, "What the fuck are you doing? Calm down, go away, go home. We got it. We got this. Don't be." That's public record. It's public record, and it's been distorted so much by a media apparatus designed to gatekeep people's worldview. That's just the way that it freaking happened. But you
Of
can
course you don't. You
verify
trust
this.
all of
You
the
can go
news.
and look it up. You
No,
don't
I
have
I
to
don't think
believe
he
me.
tweeted that.
The records exist for
So
themselves.
Trump said stay peaceful around 2-something p.m. after they'd broken down Nancy Pelosi's door and shit in her office.
Now you're
Yeah.
talking about January 6th.
That's not correct.
There's nothing aggressive about shitting on
He
a
said,
desk.
Don't go to January 6th, weeks before they ever went. He said that multiple times, and that's why they couldn't convict him of starting in this direction when it went to court.
Yeah,
Don't sit there with that look on your face like your eyebrows are trying to hug your eyes.
Hang on, no. There's many reasons why it wasn't charged with insurrection.
As early as like noon 30, Trump was like, "Hey, kids, let's just keep it good." You know, even from the ellipse, when he was speaking in terms of we're going
fight like
to.
hell.
There was a fight. Yes, fight like hell in the exact same
Or else
way
you're not
that
gonna have
you
a
would
country
tell your
anymore.
basketball.
What were they fighting
to
for?
go out
Fight
on the
like
court.
hell.
Yeah, what were they
like-
trying to do? What was the goal?
Hold
Or
on.
Maxine Waters
Dude,
saying,
he was
"Ryan,
landing, I'm
don't
sorry.
delve into Rachel Maddow territory.
What
at
was the
this
goal?
point, man. The
What was the
hyperbole
goal? What was
is
the
not
fight for?
necessary. It's not. It's not.
Oh, I
What
could
were they
ask
trying
the
to
same
do?
thing about
Feel of
certain
it.
people, guys. I could ask who they were fighting when Maxine Waters said, "Let's fight like hell," or when.
Well, that's cool. You can do that. I want to know. I want to know what they were
Who's
trying
the
to
other
do. what
girl?
they were
Who's the
fighting
other?
Yes, we can whataboutism
ex-wives,
it
right?
if you want. We can whataboutism it, but we're
Look,
also-
okay.
Everybody's been one about us. What are you talking about?
No, we could continue down this diatribe. The problem is with
Oh,
that was
please.
under his freedom of speech, right? Donald Trump could say that's not grounds of insurrection because it was under his freedom of speech. However, it still stands if he literally said fight like hell. Okay, he quite literally said that right
like
before
hell,
they
we're not gonna
stormed the
Democrats can.
fucking Capitol building. Okay, that happened. That's just
Right.
factual statement at this point.
Well, I mean, you could
Well.
say fight like hell
But
and
what
Yeah,
was
you
the
can.
still mean all
Fight for
sorts of
what?
different
Yeah, all
things.
sorts of
Every single-
different things. Okay.
Every single football coach, every single
He
high
was
school
also
football coach in
advocating
America would be
trans
arrested.
You got
was
Maxine
how would you-
Waters
Actually,
saying it,
right before. Hang on.
You got
violent,
Jasmine
saying
Crockett
make
saying it,
your
I'm
voice
seizing
but it's okay
control.
when they
It
do.
was all-
Everybody talk at once, please.
True. Keep doing
Everybody
it.
at once.
I have a point to what I'm saying. I'm just saying,
doubt it.
all these Democrats are saying fight like hell. You ain't got
Well,
a problem
all
with
of
that.
you can
Not
shut
the
the
hell.
fuck up because Kissy Cat sent another 20 gifted Gauntlet memberships. And for that, I think she wants to see the firemen. I mean, I know
Oh
Kate.
no.
Well, we could do the fireman for her, or we could do the horse for K2 Keep on Trucking. And usually when Kissy Cat wants to send in
Damn.
money, she sends in money to play the horse for K2. So I'm gonna say this is an ode to K2 Keep on Trucking on the kind compliments of Kissy Cat.
We get some ass.
This message is sponsored in part by.
There you
Wonderful.
go.
There we go.
Thank you.
I mean, do we
Kissy
consider the
Cat.
riots in the name
Wait,
of
what were they?
Orlando?
So what were they trying to
Just,
do? I was
just
I
answer the
keep
question.
asking, no
What
one
was
answers.
winning the fight? What would winning the fight look like on January 6th?
Yeah.
I don't know what fight. you're talking
Restoring
about.
democracy.
Okay, of course you don't.
What a coward,
You're gonna
dude.
sit
What
there
a
and
Stopping
coward.
the steal.
Of course I don't. But what
No,
fight?
just
is
don't
it?
answer-
It's
don't
talking
answer
about?
the question.
And we
Ramsey.
do I need to
Oh.
hand out do I need to hand out the talking stick?
Please, yes.
Mine's up my butt.
Well, I mean that's not
Sorry.
exactly the greatest place for that to be.
Oh yeah, no, it's
Ryan, we'll
absolutely
start with
fucking
you, and then we'll
degen,
work our way around the
degen
panel. So
normie
Jonathan
behavior. But you know what?
Maxine,
We take what we can
Mike,
get. Okay,
Navy,
this is the
this
panel
will
we've been
go to
offered
Chuck,
tonight,
and
so
then AM.
we take what we can
That's
get.
how
We
we're
were
gonna do
talking
it.
with Rob North, so it's we
I would just love to give
can't
everyone a
be
chance to tell me
fucking
exactly
beggars
what the
can't be
success
choosers. That's
looked
it. And
like
we
January
spoke to Rob North, so like
What
I'll
were they
take the cheap
trying
degenerate
to
ass
achieve?
shot. All right, we'll do it.
Well, obviously they were trying. Now, not all people, because you Effigy just said, we can't ascribe all motives to all people involved in situations. So I think some people were there to try to interfere with an election. I think there are people who were there to try to cause chaos for both sides. I think there were people there who also wanted to just show their grievances. Because it's their constitutional right to do so. But here's my thing: is if we reverse this, if you're going to now put all of that on Trump for his words, which is fine, then do we say what happens now when you see Democrats talking about how radical or how fascist or whatever half the country is, and they said, we gotta fight this. That a bunch of Antifa people would go and kill people. Would that then be on whoever said that, whatever government official said that? I mean, are we going to literally then put the buck there? That's all I have to say.
So to respond to that one, and then I'll let whoever else to respond to the next part. But I mean, if Trump had just said, we got to fight like hell to, like that was it. Like if it wasn't in the context of like a really like well orchestrated plan to literally storm the Capitol. Like there were text messages by the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. They had a very, very detailed plan, and with a specific goal. And Trump had an electors plot where he sent fake electors so they would have a moment to delay, so they would hope. They wanted Mike Pence to do the right thing, right? And they were calling him a traitor when he didn't do it. I mean, it's
the issue is
so
when you
clear.
get into the
Specific
weeds of it.
scenario with a very specific goal that with violence that could have been stopped at any point by Trump saying, "Hey, actually stop," because when he tweeted, "Go home, you special people," they did.
This message is sponsored in part by.
All right, and over to Animated Effigy. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if you look back before the 6th even happened, all of this was basically telegraphed. Bannon said basically as much in an interview. One of the biggest things I could point to is that while Pence sat there with his daughter in there, basically thinking that they might die, Trump at the same time was tweeting that Pence had failed them, and instead of calling it off, he was pressuring lawmakers to get them not to certify. We all know, anyone who sat through all of the information that we've gotten out through the congressional inquiries, know all this information. We know what they were doing. The Eastman Plan was a thing, and if they would have succeeded, it would have put us in a constitutional crisis we have never seen in this country. To pretend otherwise, and the way they constantly have to downplay what was attempted on the 6th is disgusting, which is why they have to double down on it so hard so they don't look like complete un-American assholes.
Well said, Effigy.
Fair. All right,
So,
ranting.
hang on. Wait, can I Douglas Murray? Murray?
No, ranting.
Were you there?
Ranting Mike, go ahead.
Hey, so I think one of the things that makes arguing January 6th so difficult is because
Look, he's
you can't
wilding
really
out,
reduce
all
it down
right.
to just that day,
He's
because
wilding
there
out. He's
was,
putting
like, a
text
12
on
to
his
18
shit.
month
I need
effort
the
leading up
next
to the
stream. We're gonna
election
have
to
virtual cams
poison
set
the
up, and
minds
I'm
of half the
gonna
country
I'm gonna
that the
while
election
out.
would be
All right, we're
stolen.
gonna have
So that
fucking.
way, if Trump
We're gonna
happened to
have
lose,
Fortnite
everyone would
dancing
already
on
be
the cam.
convinced it
That's
was
what we're
stolen.
gonna
So
do. We're
that
gonna fucking.
led up to
We're gonna
January 6th.
while
As
out,
far
do
as
some
January 6th,
troll like
I'll give
shit.
Olive
All right,
Branch to
some
Mosman.
shenanigans. I'm
I
gonna
don't
see
think
if
the
we can get
majority of the
booted off the
people
panel
there
by
were
fucking with
actually there to try
webcam. All
to
right, that's what we're gonna
stop the
do.
certification. I think, to your point,
It's gonna
there was
be
a lot of
fun.
people that were just kind of there, caught up in the frenzy, and I don't think those specific people should have been charged. They probably, if anything, something very minor, go home, stop causing mischief, get out of here. However, I do think there were some more sinister actors and groups there that absolutely should have been charged, and probably some of them very severely, because of like the coordination that I think Ryan was mentioning, that those ones did look like they were there with a coordinated plan. They weren't just there to kind of cause vandalism and mischief. So I am completely okay with whatever punishment should fit like your individual crime, or not even a crime, and just say go home, get out of here. So I'll leave it. I mean, this is such a big topic. We're probably not going to have time to go over the whole thing anyway.
Thank you. Avis, to you.
I honestly blanked out. I was talking to my chat. My bad. Next person.
There. Mr. Bill.
I want to go back to what Ryan was saying. Like, what does fight really mean, or something like that? When he said you'll fight,
No,
or
no,
whatever.
no, sorry. What were they trying to do? Like, what was the goal of the fight like hell? Like, I mean, the fight like hell.
Yeah. So saying the word fighting is bad is what you're saying, making you sound like.
No, absolutely not. I don't care about the word fight at all. Really.
Okay. What I think they would have thought fight would have been a better way to handle it would have been having American flags, maybe red hats, all around the Capitol building. So that way, when the congressmen and everything saw what was going on outside and everything, peaceful, maybe just closer to the Capitol at that point there, but not breaking or anything. Seeing that, they would have changed their minds about their voting at that point there. And then maybe even Pence might have seen like, I got too many people going against me. I might have to actually make the decision to reverse what he was originally going to do at that point there. What?
Supposedly they were trying to get Pence to get out of there so the certification would fall onto the House leader and they would do it.
Yeah.
Rob
But that didn't
Could you
work.
imagine-
says,
I know, but if you
with
had a
the-
million people out there, go ahead.
Right.
Rob says he must still be streaming over there. I hope he's watching. Rob says, my wife voted in the who is more attractive poll. She won't tell me who she voted for, though. Thanks a lot, Ryan. I blame you for this. I wonder if she voted for Ryan because the dog. Remember, I did say you could vote for Ryan on behalf of voting for the dog. So if she likes
Look.
dogs, clearly she does. Get
All in
3
a
of
day's
them
work.
even over there. It might just be the dog, Rob. Don't take it personally. It's just
Dog has a
I
better
win the
haircut.
debates and I win your wives. So just,
There you go.
Like, be careful, okay? If you want to come up
Not
against
mine.
Stoner.
So can I just point out, please, what Mr. Bill just enunciated is essentially a coup of the government. You get that the certification of the election is essentially a ceremonial mechanism. The certifications already happened at each of the states. They're basically just conglomerating those certifications and then
There
holding
you
a
go.
ceremonial vote to say these are all
Where does
correct.
it say?
The
Where does
states
it,
have
where does
said
it say
yes.
in the Constitution? Where does it say ceremonial vote? That happens that day. Where does it say ceremonial?
They don't change, right?
doesn't
We
say
have laws that
ceremonial
say
in the
that they have to-
Constitution.
They can't change
If you're a
it. We've
constitutionalist,
written
it
laws.
does not say ceremonial.
Oh,
That is
so
a-
if we ignore the 250 years after the
Yes.
Constitution, then it doesn't work.
Sorry, it
Gotcha.
doesn't use the word ceremonial, so your own effigy.
You understand?
I
if
mean,
it-
by
if
that
it-
logic, it
thing
would
with
be the
putting it in the
electors
Constitution.
ignoring the Constitution for 250 years,
Yeah.
not the
No,
Constitution.
the entire
being in
Constitution's
error.
point is that it can be changed and added laws to. Like, what the hell are y'all
Right. So
talking
was
about?
it? Was it
You can
though?
amend-
Did they
was there an
amend
amendment?
that,
Was there an
or
amendment?
it-
No, there wasn't an amendment. You're right. Go
No,
ahead.
that's Mr. Bill's correct. There was not. It was
There
not.
wasn't there
changed.
after
It
the
was
fact
not
to
added.
clarify the process.
No, it even says that
Not an
the
amendment, maybe.
time that it's
There's-
supposed to
there's a
be,
law.
the second Monday or whatever time it is at that point there, they put it in there right in the Constitution.
It's
Yes,
1201.
the Constitution when it suits your case, but not when
Very
it's against your
specific
case.
about the
That's weird.
1201.
all right.
Sarah?
But
Trippy.
it's still just an argument for the House of
Trippy turn.
Representatives to decide who becomes president
Right.
without any of us voting, right? Mattering. That's what your argument is.
So you're
No,
asking,
if they see that there's a possibility that things could have possibly went wrong or whatever at that point there, they could sort of adjust.
Because
their
the ones who
didn't.
lose don't
at
like
that
that
point
they
there.
lost.
Mr. Bill, you realize you're describing a threat of violence.
No, I'm saying if this many people, if there's a whole bunch of people outside, and they
But you're saying
They-
because that the House of Representatives has the ability to choose who is president.
no, that's not the thing that happens on that day. They don't choose.
No, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, the certification of the vote is just it there is nothing outside of the fact that it's just a ceremony, right? It's just a spiritual ceremony. There is no real process that's going through with that. The process was already decided once you cast your vote, and then the electors go through. Whoever gets the most votes, the
Then J6
electors,
didn't
then
matter.
their votes go to
If that's
that.
the case, if that's the case, that
It
J6
truly-
doesn't matter.
truly
If
did
it's
not.
ceremonial, like you just said, and J6 doesn't matter. It already happened. Nothing could have happened. If it's
Yes,
not
yes,
ceremonial,
true.
Something could have changed.
The electors' votes were already decided by the time J6 happens. That's a factual statement.
Okay, then
There was
nothing
nothing that could have changed the electors past that
Based on
day.
what you're saying, nothing could have changed.
Wait. But they sent fake electors to replace those electors. That was the whole goal, right?
Yes.
Don't talk out of your ass too much. But well, you're asking what
I'm
he
not.
meant
I'm
by-
not. No,
That's
I'm
not
sorry.
how it
I'm
was
sorry.
asked. Don't
I'm
Well,
fucking say
yeah,
that.
no,
That's
they
not how it was
did.
asked at all.
There was fake
Some
electors. Yes, that was the whole
fake
point.
Electors, at least was
I
it
don't know.
seven
Okay,
fake electors?
sorry. Anyways, when he said fight like hell, he meant fight for what you believe in, fight for your patriotism, fight for
Which was
what you
what?
think
Stop
is
the
right.
steal.
Not blow things up
fight
or
for your
anything
right
like
to
that.
party.
He didn't see any
Well,
explosions.
luckily
No
they didn't
police
blow anything
officers
up. They
died on the night
started
of
trying
January
to.
6th. Not a single one, as a matter of fact. Only person I know that died was a female who was unarmed, who was shot through a door by a security guard.
How many
Then
cops were injured?
you've also got, what about 2020? Was that
But
not an
150
attempted
were injured.
insurrection?
How many
when they
times
were
have you
lighting
said should have
fires?
Not
complied?
whatabouting. Stay on
When they
topic.
were,
How many cops were injured at January 6th?
how many cops were injured January 6th? You tell me, since you
Yeah.
know everything. 0?
150.
Yeah, okay. Pull up those numbers and show me it's true. Not one of them died,
Whoa.
but
I
plenty
didn't
of
say
them
they
died
died.
in 2020
Oh,
during
yeah,
the
3 of
summer
them
of
died
love
in
when they
the-
were
Yeah,
fighting
some of them
fires.
did die in Jan
Some
6
of them
from
did die
concussion.
days after.
No, they didn't.
No.
Concussion.
They pointed out one
No,
officer who
no,
passed
you're
away
talking
from a
about
heart
Brian
attack the
Sicknick.
night
He died
after.
way
I do
later.
not get the obsession with trying to
And
minimize
there was
what
no
happened that day.
hospital that night.
Here we go.
I've got more.
Chuck,
Yeah.
do you want to add something in, my darling?
Did Trippy Cat ever get to finish his thought?
Mm-mm,
Everybody kept cutting him off.
not
Up to
quite.
you, Trippy. Go ahead.
I love Chuck. He was looking like very relaxed. But I mean, I guess
Chilling.
2020, all those riots and protests and fires and lighting government buildings on fire, those none of that was an insurrection attempt at all. But when some guys that actually stood behind the president attempted to go over to the Capitol, and there weren't very many.
Hang on,
Overturn the
no,
election.
no, Trippy. Neither is an
That's all
insurrection.
of a sudden.
Neither is an insurrection, but one of them
Were
does have a
guided by
conspiracy.
Security guards.
Listen, Trippy has the floor right now, and you talking over him is quite rude.
All right,
They
my
were
bad.
walked in by security guards. Nobody was walked into a government building during any of the 2020 explosions and told to light fireworks and attempt to burn the building down. Where
Bro, they weren't.
that was
They
an
weren't
insurrection
walked
attempt
in.
way before January 6th, but none of you guys have a problem with any of that shit. You don't even have a problem with what happened over this past weekend. None of you would call that an insurrection attempt.
Oh, hush.
So,
But
Are you
yeah,
done?
there was
Okay.
people throwing things, breaking police cars, attacking cops.
I
setting shit
wouldn't.
on
I wouldn't
fire,
call.
Who said we don't
making
have a
cops
problem with
stop in the
that?
middle of the highway and throwing rocks at their windshields, but none of that was attempted murder, right?
Who said that?
okay, so
Why are
nobody's
you
doing any of that shit.
giving
To be
words
clear,
into
nobody
our
said
mouths?
that.
No one said we
And in
didn't have a
fact,
problem with that.
hang on.
Uh-huh.
In fact, I've been very explicit all throughout this and over the past week. I've condemned the violence over and over and over and over. I've said that it plays into Trump's hand. I've told
That's good, but you
everyone-
probably refer to it all as a peaceful
Yeah,
protest.
you
don't you?
notice how the
No,
subject
I
is
don't.
completely
I
changed
discern-
now, which is why
Sorry,
whataboutism
no.
works.
No, I haven't. What
sep-
about
I
it?
just-
Shit.
Hang on. I
Effigy.
discern between the peaceful protests and the violent people, and those people are getting charged and arrested as they should for
Mhm.
doing violence, and the LAPD is handling it. And when they
And that's
were
her?
overwhelmed, they brought in 800 other state and local officers from other places in California. Like Gavin Newsom was requested, and they brought in more support to handle those things. So they didn't.
Gavin
need
Newsom,
National
the
Guard.
guy
Second of all, someone mentioned, why do they feel so obligated to downplay January 6th? I'll tell you, it's because of post-modern neo-fascism. They have to
And you're a
rewrite the
postmodern
narrative. They have to
neoliberal.
rewrite
But-
history. Hang on, Trippy. They have to
I will, I'm
rewrite
sorry.
history and reassert the big lie, right, over and over and over. Because if they repeat it enough times, it'll be true. And even when they're joking about it, even when they're memeing, because Trippy Cast half the time he's quipping, he's joking because he's a clown, right? And he doesn't actually believe half the shit he says. But
No, I
when,
get to
when,
put
he's
that
not, when he
stuff
is
in because
joking,
I'm quick.
when he is joking, it's not really a joke because he still is asserting it, even whether he believes it or not.
Is
No,
one
I-
of those
I
pretty
literally-
lie things like saying safe and effective over and over? Is that
I
one
know.
of those things?
I literally offer the olive branch that the majority of people on Jan 6 probably should have been told to go home, or very minor charges. I said it was a small group that should get severe charges. Do you have an issue with that?
I can respect you and Ryan for the things that you guys have said here tonight, and I will tell you that is why you guys will never be famous liberals. You're too fair.
Dun dun dun. Very true, actually.
Well, damn, I'm just gonna
good
quit
point.
now.
That's good.
It was a
Chuck,
small amount, and it was
Okay.
a specific set of people who got in trouble on January 6th, right? But those people were the ones who were
It
actually
was
doing
2,000,
bad
wasn't
shit.
it?
No, there
like
were
50
actually
numbers.
there were a number of people who sat in prison for up to 2.5 years with fucking no charges, convicted
No
of
due
no
process.
crime other
No
than
charges?
trespass.
And no due process.
No due
That's right.
process.
No due
No
process.
due
Absolutely.
No,
process.
they went in front of
Month,
judges.
month,
They
month,
had due
month, month,
process.
month,
Is
month,
not
month,
true.
month.
There's a lot.
No
Chuck
due
would
process now.
Chuck.
Yes,
Chuck, would you
ma'am.
like to say something?
Sure. You can take J6 and compare it to any other large people event. Mob mentality. Once some bad actors get the crowd going, it's like a fever sets in. And that's when you get all the bad actions. I believe a vast majority were there just to show their disagreement with the election, not to overturn the election. Number
I believe you're
two,
correct.
if you look up the certification process, as I think Bill pointed out, it's a process that they go through. And yes, an election can be changed by the Congress, but there's a process that they have to go through. I'm not going to sit here and try to read the whole damn thing out. We'd be here all night. But there is a set process. What was the other point I was going to make? Oh my God, everybody got talking and derailed me. And the other thing, earlier, people were making claim that they ordered Trump to release the guard back to Newsom. However, a federal appeals court has ruled that Friday there will be a hearing to settle this. But in the meantime, the guard is still under the control of Trump.
Yes,
You're
sir.
correct. It'll probably go to the
And I will
Supreme Court,
pass.
I'm sure.
I don't know why
Thank
Newsom would have told him
Not
he didn't
gonna-
want them there in the first place. It seems kind of
And-
fishy to me.
It's
Now
political.
AM.
AM wake up.
Oh, I'm Steve, by the way.
Oh,
Oh,
thanks.
okay, Steve.
AM Wake Up is the one of the shows that I do. But yeah, Steve. So I was there with January 6th. What I saw looked way more like multiple coordinated operations going on at once with a handful of rubes involved in the process. It was hectic. At least up until the point to where it was about halfway through.
I think we're about to get
after Ruby's
FBI at
speech,
Jan
halfway
6.
through Trump's
I think
speech,
that's where we're getting right
I'm
now.
standing
FBI at Jan
in
6.
front of the ellipse with Dylan Avery and Jason Burmis, and we're shooting the breeze. I don't know if we can swear on here or not. I'm gonna try not to.
Shooting the shit.
Fuck no, you can't cuss on here.
There you go.
Christian program.
We're
What the
shooting
hell's wrong with
It's a
you?
Christian program, yeah.
It was day drunk Woodstock at that point. We went up towards the Capitol, and it was like, I don't know if you've ever seen it's like a halftime show, right? The marching band and the color guard come out. Everybody's in formation. They're all moving in uniform fashion. There are a lot of people with very specific tasks doing very specific things that, if you looked at it zoomed in, would look unrelated to the entire piece that's going on. But from where we were, it did seem highly coordinated. There are
I'm pretty sure we're
multiple
getting
articles
FBI at Jan
over
6 right
the
now. That
last
is what we're
several
being told.
years where even Capitol law enforcement throughout various agencies is on record saying we don't even know how many undercovers that we had.
Yeah, but why wouldn't you have undercovers there?
Of course,
should.
you wouldn't, and
Probably would.
okay, if
Would you have them go into the Capitol?
I'm not even here arguing my politics at this point. I'm just telling you what I saw and how all that went. I disagree with the state. I don't care what state it is. I don't care what kind of hat they have on. They're all fucking authoritarian, fucking money grubbing thieves. There's no such thing as liberty with government. There's governance, which is much different. And that's a conversation for an entirely different time, because that's not what I'm here to talk about. But we're talking about J6 right now. I was there. I can speak to what I saw.
Let me ask you a question.
Certainly.
Because it feels like you are sharing the sentiment that you think the feds possibly might have like riled up the crowd or
This is not something I
encouraged
think,
things.
it's something that's been demonstrated.
Okay, would you extend that same opinion to the LA riots and the BLM riots that the feds pushed the violence?
Yeah, and I have it on my show over the years. I've gone into detail with on the ground reporters and various different journalists who have been in all these different locations, myself included, when I can, in order to go and show this that here's what's organic, here's what's inorganic.
Okay. Would you say the same about Occupy Wall Street?
Even if I disagree with you, at least you're being consistent on your principle, so I can respect that.
Yeah. And feel free to disagree with my politics, but I am merely describing what I saw, and I will describe. Dude, I came out of I got my skull cracked open for the first time at the WTO protests in '99. And that's how I got introduced into what the Black Bloc was, what what kettling was, how early police forces worked with the IDF in terms of how they can control and manipulate crowds and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's how I got.
They're working with the IDF, guys.
End of a
oh my God, I don't know where we're going with this one.
And so I've been in it, since then. And analyzing this stuff, being on the ground for it, and then also making a number of, friends, contacts, and associations over the last 25, 30 years of people who are also on the ground in various locations, not just in the U.S., but all around.
Yeah, and I would probably say I don't disagree with you that there are documented incidents and probably incidents we don't know about where the feds did conjure up activities at these protests that turn into riots. The only point I would make, and I think maybe someone either here made it earlier or someone who left, I can't remember. I just think we should also guard against falling down the rabbit holes that it's always the case, because I think we can fall into that trap too, where we'll just call it a false flag, just call it this and that.
Okay, no, here's the issue.
Fault with that. You're absolutely correct, and you should view every incident with the same amount of discernment that you would whether or not you're playing 3-card money. Look at all of it, question everything, and do the best you can to verify.
I need to say something real quick because you mentioned how coordinated it was, and I'm sure it was because there's a ton of text messages that outline the plan. There's so much evidence of the plan that the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers they wrote down what they were going to do, and then they went and did it. And then that day, I'm almost done. I waited for you. I let you do your whole
came to fruition.
Please let Ryan finish. He is the featured guest of the evening, and he has
never so much disrespect before.
Listen, he gets booted literally all the time off the normal panels. This is his night to talk. Let the man talk. Go ahead, Ryan.
There is so much documented evidence that they planned and coordinated this. They wrote exactly what they were going to do. They texted about it for weeks, and then they went and fucking did it. And then Enrique Tarrio that day is literally texting, "Make no mistake, we did this." It is so obvious what happened. It's cartoonish to pretend that it was some psyop. Honestly,
just arguing. Is just kind of wild, right? If someone planned to assassinate a public figure or something like that, and they miss, and you're like, oh well, it didn't come to fruition, therefore we shouldn't arrest them. What are you talking about?
Didn't come to fruition, like the whole Governor Whitmer thing out here in Michigan, where 4 out of the 6 people who supposedly attempted to kidnap her turned out to be FBI agents, and the other 2 people who weren't FBI agents went to prison.
Out of 16.
14
out of 16.
Out here, I think it was 6.
all said and done,
Regardless,
assets, feds,
The fact that you guys are arguing about the number makes me doubt any of your stories.
Here's the problem though that I think everybody's missing is that there's no denying that there is things out there that show there is some type of coordination with a lot of these things. And the problem I think we have is that one side completely looks at the ultimate worst and assumes the ultimate worst for everyone for that, and the other side does the same thing. And so I think that's one of the reasons why we're having the ships passing in the mist kind of situation, because we're ascribing the very worst possible thing based off of biases.
Well, like, okay, one thing I would grant is you will probably always find a member of an intelligence agency within any protest organization, whether you're talking in the 50s compared to today, whether they're right wing, left wing, in the center, it doesn't matter. If you're doing shit conspiring against someone, there's going to be a member of an intelligence agency inside of your group, right? But it's a question of, are they just there to gather intelligence for a court case, shit like that, or are they actually participating, aiming the ship? Right? I don't think you're going to find cases you're not going to find cases of them specifically agitating, right? I think, you'll find one or two FBI guys that were at Jan 6, right? I don't think they were the ones busting down windows, right? I don't think they were encouraging people, but yeah, sure, in the crowd, I'll grant you, there was probably like 10, 15 FBI guys that literally rode with the Proud Boys in the same fucking car, right? But they were in the back seat and they didn't even have the aux cord. That's my argument.
Right, because we know because they wear the same costumes.
I want to speak to the Whitmer thing. I want to speak to the Gretchen Whitmer thing, because my understanding, okay, I don't care how many agents there were, the people who got arrested and charged, they were engaging in a plan to kidnap her, right? They didn't end up kidnapping her because there were these agents who were involved.
Thank God the FBI stopped the FBI.
Exactly, because it was way more
people who were
FBI
arrested
agents.
were not in the FBI. So
mean, hey,
what are you talking about?
Of course they
No,
weren't.
no,
Because
actually,
people in the
they were
FBI
in
don't usually
the
go to
court,
jail
so
for
you
this
can
kind of
read
shit.
The FBI. So
transcripts, my
hang on. If the FBI asks you if somebody is like pretending not to be in the FBI and they go and ask you,
Undercover,
hey,
right,
do you want to go rob this bank? And you're like, hell yeah, let's rob that bank.
No,
They got your ass, okay?
Hang on, I'm gonna finish. And then you start working on a plan with them.
That's what she
to
said.
rob the bank, and then you walk into the bank and you're about to rob it, and they're like, yeah, you're under arrest. You
Ryan.
still were planning on you were a criminal.
Ryan.
You were still a fucking
Ryan,
criminal.
it's a federal crime for an
right.
FBI agent.
And they got
or
you a
federal
conspiracy
agent.
too.
Correct.
I'm sorry, I
And
didn't
they
realize
can
you were
get
talking.
Yeah, you're an accessory to a crime at that point.
Yeah,
Correct.
if you're an
Yeah.
FBI agent and you tell somebody to do something and they do it, you've helped them do it now, and it's illegal for you to have done that.
Yeah, but that's
Seriously,
why
like, you
these
should be
agents
going to jail or prison for it.
Yeah, but that's why
So
these
you guys
agents, they're
remember-
trained
You
in a
can't
way
trick
to where
other
they
people
don't
into
say
committing
that.
crimes
They were
under the
tricking them.
pretense
They're
that you're not an
hang on.
FBI
No,
agent.
no,
Like
I
you're
got
not
this wrong.
allowed to do that.
Do you guys
They're
remember the
not
Boogaloo
tricking them
Boys?
because they didn't commit the crime, right? They didn't
Yeah.
get the chance to actually
But
commit
if the
crime.
FBI agents are the ones who planned it and you're the one that goes with it, then they've gotten you to do it. Don't you
Ryan,
understand
you
how
agree
law
with
the
works?
me?
means to carry out a plan that you want to execute. That's a
I'm
different
telling
thing.
you, it's illegal for an FBI agent to do that. It is literally part
It's
of
called
the
an
oath
Yeah,
they take.
yeah, they can't entrap you, right? But they can be in the room when you're making the plans, right?
That's true.
They
Yeah,
can't
be in
make
room
the
when you're
plans
making a plan.
themselves, but
That's
they
part of the
can be in
reason
the
why they're
room.
undercover.
Correct.
But
that's why they
they
would
have
use
a
it.
history of doing it, though, right, guys? We know that, right? At least at
So-
Ruby Ridge.
Here's the thing. The you can go, Ryan, right now to Internet Archive or probably Brave browser, something like that, and type in FBI plots foiled by the FBI. The Los Angeles Times did an article in 2017, 2018, and they were looking back just a mere 15 years, and they found that out of 21 quote unquote terror incidents, 18 out of the 21 were instigated by the FBI. And it was the FBI stopping the FBI from doing the bad. And that's one of the ways that that particular agency used traditionally to justify its existence and its continuing budget. And you know what?
Yeah,
If
I'm just
you've
gonna say
got that
everything is
kind
doing
of
for itself,
largesse,
frankly.
who could really blame them for, riding high on the hog like that? But that's not me saying it. Again, it's an LA Times investigation that found that out of 21 incidents, 18 of them were
Okay.
orchestrated by the FBI.
Are you saying
That's a
Jan 6 was
pretty bad
orchestrated
track
by the
record.
FBI?
No,
No.
I'm saying that the FBI probably had foreknowledge because we've
Okay, I'll
seen
grant you
a
that.
lot of evidence to that.
Because we all.
Yeah, it could. I will grant you that
Yeah,
it could have been
very
it could have been a
loud
9/11 situation, right? But then that would imply that Donald Trump knew about January 6th ahead of time, and that's why he put the blame on Nancy Pelosi, right? He wanted to
You know
obfuscate the
what?
blame from himself.
True.
And I'm
I
sure
would be the
Nancy
most
Pelosi
historic rally
knew
ever
about
if
it
something
too,
crazy
and put
didn't
the blame
happen.
on Donald Trump. I'm suggesting that all of these people are corrupt to their fucking gills,
And
we
I
shouldn't
will
trust
agree
any
with
of them
that,
any
my
further
brother.
than
I'll
you
agree with that.
goddamn
There
fling
we
'em.
go.
Yeah.
Hey, first thing. Yeah, we agree.
It could also be
Ryan?
argued.
Ryan, are you still planning on streaming after this?
I'll go for a little bit. Are you planning on raiding? Is that?
Yeah, why don't we raid and you can take the party over there?
Yeah, sure. I'm cool with that. I'll go for a
Is he
little
gonna
bit.
bring techno music?
I have to go 9
You should.
It's
Mind if I
Ryan's
do like a
gonna.
little closing statement thing?
Yeah, no, yeah, we're gonna go around the panel as normal. We'll let
Yeah,
everybody
cool.
have
Yeah, I'll
their.
go last.
Absolutely. All right, let's start with Ranting Mike. Your closing statement, please. Mr. Mike, are you with us?
He's almost done. No.
Yeah, true.
He's probably taking a shit right now. He's like mid-wipe. Chuck, why don't you go ahead while we're waiting?
Sarah did have a good point a while ago, about a half a dozen times. The conversation is much easier to follow when it's one at a time. We can discern the language easier, as opposed to a bunch of yapping women. Y'all have a good night.
Have a great night.
Jack, you definitely pointed that one out. That's for sure. Trippy Cast to you.
I like everybody on here and everything. It's a great panel. You guys are good. Hamburgers are delicious. French fries, hot dogs, all American, especially those French fries. That's pretty
There
much
we go.
it.
Short, sweet, to the point. Mr. Bill to you.
Back to my point earlier, my main point was just if you have a lot of members that are civil and proud of whatever the cause is that they're shooting for, they can change minds, whether it be the Congress's minds or somebody else's minds. Anyway, I'm on YouTube at only a Mr. Bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bill. No boxing today, huh?
I was going to, but I wanted to stay on this time.
Does anybody else agree that he sounds like Romano from
Who's
Romano
Romano?
Productions? The way he talks.
Kind of.
I don't know.
Listen to-
Romano's only he's
Testing
5'4".
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's the way he talks though.
Oh,
Like
oh.
I could
Like his
imagine
cadence?
Romano like 30 years from now sounding like Mr. Bill now.
Yeah, I could see that.
Mm-hmm. Avius to you, sir.
I am Avius A. You can find me on YouTube where I'm actually live streaming right now, but I'll be ending at 11 o'clock. I live stream Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. So yeah, you can catch me there. If you liked what I said here, if you want to fucking spurg off at me, yell at me, I have a Discord. Please,
Did you
I
say
need
fuck
people.
me?
I'm just, yeah, if you want to fucking, if you want to scream at me, fuck with me, yeah, please, you know. But
on,
yeah,
sir.
until then, I enjoyed the panel. Ryan, please find a different way to explain fascism, okay? It takes too long for you to explain the definition and people only half listen. I hate to tell you, man. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Wait.
Look, I'm not throwing
Sorry, real
shade.
quick,
I'm just
respond to
saying,
that.
like, once you go into long, like, definitions, you're gonna lose people, okay? I'm looking out for you, man.
Yeah, so when I talk about fascism, I've been very clear. Just like authoritarian ultranationalism is a really good.
Yeah, that's too much, okay? That's too much, man.
If people don't know the
That's
definition of
crazy.
each
Yeah,
of
that's-
those.
Yeah, as soon as you say
There's so much
postmodern,
more.
people are
That's like
fucking,
the
they're out,
simplest
all
way you
right?
can break down fascism.
No, you can't say postmodern, my
Three
friend. All right.
words are too much. You need to go.
Just watch
take
the LA
a class.
riots.
It's
If you
not
want example.
Book.
It's not that 3 words are too much. I think just most people don't know the definition of each, so it's hard for them to hold on to what you're saying.
Well, good thing we have a 5-hour panel to break it down, huh?
And a Google
Mhm.
too. They should use Google.
Agreeable. Ranting Mike, are you with us, sir?
Yeah, I
Did you
ran
wipe and did you wash your hands?
always.
Go ahead
Uh,
with your closing thoughts.
Thanks for having me on. Obviously, we have a lot of distinct opinions. Sometimes they differ, but I think towards the end we started to find more common ground about things, so that's always nice. It was fun. I'm sure I'll be back to do it again. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Mr. Effigy, to you, sir.
Always a fun panel. I think boiling the definition of fascism down to like 3 words, it just makes you understand it less. I'm more of a fan of Umberto Eco's 14 Points of Fascism. I think they're really all-encompassing. So if you want to look those up and check those out, I think you'll be a little creeped out by how many of them we're hitting. I will just end with saying this. Here are a few quotes by a few generals who have worked with Trump. More dangerous than anyone I can ever imagine. Marine Corps 4-star General and Trump's Defense Secretary General James Mattis. The depths of his dishonesty is just astounding to me. Marine Corps 4-star General and Trump's former Chief of Staff John F. Kelly. Wannabe dictator. Called him a fascist. And another quote, U.S. 4-star General and Trump's Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Mark A. Kelly. Have a great night. It's always great to debate with y'all.
Thank you, Effigy. Mosman, to you.
All right, thanks for having me on, Sarah. As always, I appreciate and enjoy the panels you do. Effigy, you are my favorite atheist liberal on YouTube. So, you and I spar. And by the way, I love what you did to the Mosman clip, just FYI. But I just want to say this, Ryan, you are wrong on what fascism is. There is one form of fascism that goes into alt-right wing authoritarianism, which is nationalism, and I would argue that 95% of all forms of nationalism is a form of fascism, based on the original meaning of the word, which comes from the Italian word, which means to group, to bundle. And that is where you distinguish. You don't distinguish between the powers. You don't distinguish, right? And I think that's one of the things we would say is a very telling sign of the Trump administration, is that he's not allowing the checks and balances, and that would be an act of fascism if he's interfering with that actively. I would also say that as for all these other whataboutisms, we can what about all day long. I think all the liberals, to what Rob had said earlier, had missed a big point, and that was that is to look at why you're against something and why you're for something. And I think we'll see that there's inconsistency on both sides, and I think that's because of partisan ideology. And I think that we should move beyond the two-party system and beyond governments. As always, I'm John Mosman at John Mosman Productions on Gmail and YouTube, and johnmosman.net. Your friendly favorite Christian and one of the few Christian anarchists here on the panel first.
Thank you, John. Mr. Steve, to you.
Thank you, Sarah, and it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Like I said, Ben Balderson sent me over here.
I like Ben.
No, he's one of my best friends on the planet. And we do a show on Tuesday nights called Deliberating Dog-Faced Dudes. We're always looking for people to have a conversation with, get into some subjects. So amwakeup@protonmail.com if you want to email me and jump in on some festivities. Other than that, man, I can't underscore enough that government, no matter what, is an illegitimate entity that only exists through theft, extortion, and violence, and that voting is a consent ritual for bloodline pedophiles. And you don't have to engage in that. You don't at all. You can actually opt out of it, and you can build community, and you can grow food, and it's really, really, really
We
easy
could have been
to make
friends.
yourself not dependent on the state. The state only exists to spy on you and steal from you. You don't have to play their bullshit games. Thank you very much, all of you. I appreciate you being here. And yeah, have a great night.
Thank you, Steve. Mr. Ryan, the Radical Coder. And
Well, how do we
question,
follow
are you doing an open panel too over on your end?
Yeah, I suppose I will. I suppose I'll have a little,
Okay.
at least for a little bit longer.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'll open up the panel when I get over there. But yeah, I mean, God, there's so much just happened. I had my closing statement, and I'll let the rest sit where it is. So Jordan Peterson, our good friend Jordan Peterson, he coined the term postmodern neo-Marxism to describe truth as narrative on the academic left. He misread intersectionality. He demonized it instead of being curious about it. And what he did was he helped fertilize a new threat. Hang on one second. That threat is what I identify as postmodern neo-fascism, partially tongue-in-cheek, partially because I think it's apt in a very complex way.
This definition blows. I hate to tell you, Coder. You could do better.
So postmodernism's weaponized doubt, truth being treated as storyline, neo-fascism's hierarchy and myth, power demands loyalty, not facts. Fusion yields authoritarian politics that rewrite reality to rule it. I think it's a fitting, apt word for the phenomenon that we're experiencing. The evidence we see in 2025 America, Trump repeating election lies, joking about a third term, quips about he who saves his country breaks no laws, long live the king, Musk's Nazi-style salute, answered with Nazi puns when he's called out for it, ICE raids school zones, book bans are rewriting history, we have our agencies or the administrative state being gutted, right-wing media brands all critics, traitors, and cheering on and applauding Donald Trump Day. The joke is always that they're not joking. Trump has openly signaled that he wants to be king. I don't want a king. That's why I want you guys to go to nokings.org and find where the June 14th protest is near you. And again, even if you disagree with everything, every single thing that I said tonight, go to one of these protests, talk to your community, talk to the people there, just listen to them. Just ask them what they're doing there. I guarantee there's going to be people from all walks of life, people that you agree with on far more than you think, and they're going to explain why they are standing up against someone who wants to be king. Okay? Thank you. I'm Ryan, Radical Coder, and then I guess I'll see some of you, or many of you, actually, since I think I'm going to get rated, many of you over at my channel shortly. I appreciate you, Sarah, so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak my piece when I am normally so ritualistically silenced on this channel.
I think Coder is one of those FBI agents we have to worry about. One of the agitators that's fucking organizing the protests. That's what he is.
We love you, Ryan. I know that those in the chat or the super chats that tend to boot you or the panelists that tend to overtalk you, they love to hate you. But we first have to start with the idea that they have to love you first in order to be able to hate you that much. So, y'all be gay out there. Continue on. All right. And just for the record, tomorrow evening, a lot of you might like this. A lot of people like to challenge the moderators. They like to say mod sucks. They like to say, you know, Sarah, I'll debate you on this or whatever bullshit. And you all like know that I just don't care. But I blame Wick. Somehow we got the idea that we're going to offer you all one night and one night only on Friday the 13th. I will allow for all of you to come on. You can debate the moderators. You can challenge us. You can say we suck at this debate or that debate, and we can call you stupid and yell back at you. This is your one and only opportunity to pop on stage with Wick and I and shoot your hateful thoughts or debate us on whatever thing or whatever. So that's tomorrow evening, 9:15 per usual. We're gonna have some fun with it. It's
The
really
Tooth
gonna
Bandit.
be. I might even buy alcohol.
We're gonna
for
fucking.
this stream.
I think I'm gonna show up
But
tomorrow
it
to
should
fight
be
the
a
Tooth
good, fun
Bandit.
time.
That's what
So
we're
I
gonna
hope you
do.
all tune in. Also, the Mormon debate is set up. We've got 1 out of 3, I believe, already set up. There are some more. So if you are a Crucible crew member looking for those Mormon debates, it's locked and loaded. Ryan and Rob will also be back here on the 29th to debate each other as well. So mark your calendars for that. The thumbnail is going to go up this weekend. And then, of course, we have Mod Monday hitting in. We've got more Throwdown Thursdays, all scheduled to the rest of the month. Anyways, I hope you all had a good time. Ryan, you know I love having you here. You're always welcome to my panel, no matter what the super chatters say. And shout out to Daniel for that final super chat. You're late, unacceptable. Everybody else, fuck off and go raid Ryan. Bye-bye.
There we go. That fucking simple. Let's turn off the webcam. Yeah, we're just gonna click out of that. Oh look, there I am, guys. There he is. Oh shit, he's gone. No. Goodbye, streamer man. Alright, alright. Go ahead. Hope there's nothing too fucking problematic right here. Yeah, no, it's all fine. We got Hassan. Hassan is too old for this. He's too old for these games, alright? Poor Hassan. Poor fucking Hassan. That's what I say often, you know? I often find myself saying, poor fucking Hassan, you know? Rest in peace. Wait. Oh shit. Hey! Hello. Kind of fixed itself, didn't it? Alright, we're gonna move you right here. Just like so. And, yeah. So the panel is over. We're done. We're 6 minutes over schedule. Yeah. That was a pretty good night, pretty good fucking panel. I got to shout for a little bit. I feel like I definitely spoke more than the first time. There was moments where I feel like I could have, like, definitely chimed in a little bit more, but you know what? I was told I needed to shut the fuck up tonight, so I definitely spoke more than last time. So we shouted at Rob Noor, we made some progress, we did some advertisement, and tomorrow we're going to be posting a Stop Killing Games video. But until tomorrow's stream and until the Stop Killing Games video for tomorrow, we're going to head off into the sunset and possibly, you know, do some more fun shit. I don't fucking know. Tomorrow, Stop Killing Games video, and then we got the stream later that night, and then past that point, you'll get the fucking Rob Noor edit from tonight on probably Monday or Tuesday. One of those days. Either way, big things are happening. Big moves are taking place in the world of Avius, alright? So, you want to start investing in a fucking meme stock that might actually take it somewhere. Make sure you drop a like, subscribe, maybe comment. Join the Discord, okay? Join the fucking Discord. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and post that in the side chat. Join the Discord. That's what we're here for. We're here to join and promote the Discord, all right? Because we want to build an inclusive environment for autists to scream at each other. We don't care if you're conservative. We don't care if you're liberal. We don't care if you're center ground. It's just you have to be able to actually debate your fucking policies. And I hope you know, if you do that fucking shit where you just start calling everybody retarded and you don't actually, like, talk about your fucking points, we will ban you, all right? You will be banned from the fucking Discord. But until next time, join the Discord, and